Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Team 7 was in My Hero Academia. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by DARQUEDEATH4444 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Chapter 1. It's not that bad, guys. Idiot. We're all being punished for something you did, Naruto. If you don't stop grinning I will punch you. You punched me already, Sakura-chan. We're cleaning the archives. We're jounin', Naruto. This is a D rank at best. We are being punished for destruction, Sakura, and you clearly were the culprit that caused most of it. Did I hear something? HN. Sasuke-kun, you've barely touched your pile. It's dusty. What, scared of some dirt, you bastard? Guys. I'm hungry, Sakura-chan. Stop whining. Stop fighting. Work, so we can leave sooner. But I haven't eaten, guys, do you see that? Don't touch it, idiot. Naruto. We were told to be careful with is it glowing? What did you do? Shut up, bastard. Naruto put it down. I think it's stuck to my hand. Naruto. Uzumaki Naruto blinks and finds himself sitting on a couch in front of a TV playing some cartoon show he does not know. He fights his immediate reaction, which is to jump to his feet. He senses no immediate dangers, so he remains rooted to his spot and instead, he reaches out with his senses. There is a woman and a child in the room next door. He then glances down at his hands because his body feels wrong and stares at the hands that look way too small to be his. He wonders if this is a genjutsu even as he scoffs at the thought because what else could it be? Kurama would have told him if he was under a genjutsu. Was he dreaming? Kurama. He prompts and feels the familiar presence of the fox stir within him. What? The platter of footsteps interrupt his thought and Naruto looks up to see a boy, younger than his own body, running up towards him with the toothiest grin he has seen in a while. Sakura grinning usually meant danger and Sasuke did not grin, period. The boy skids to a halt at his side and raises his arms. When Naruto continues to stare, the boy huffs. Was he talking to him? Naikai. The blonde boy waves his arms excitedly and Naruto finds himself reaching down to pick him up. What's your name, little guy? The boy's grin widens. Katsukai. He wriggles out of his grasp and clambers over him so that they are seated next to each other. The boy turns towards the television screen, but a small hand remains wrapped around his finger. Naruto tries to tug his hand away and receives a sound of annoyance. More footsteps approach and this time a woman appears at the doorway. She rolls her eyes affectionately when she spots him and the little boy. Naruto, watch your brother while I make lunch. The woman says loudly, then vanishes down the corridor. Since when did I have a brother? Naruto mutters. Naikai. The boy chortles. Naikai. Since now, he decides, and he buries his face into the younger boy's hair. The boy, Katsuki, lets out a childish giggle and tugs at his hair. He's cute, Tabeo. Are you not the least bit curious about where you are? Kurama rumbles from within him. A little he thinks back, but later. You're in a different world, kid. What? Naruto is an easygoing guy in general, and he accepts his role as Bakugo Naruto rather easily. Kurama rolls his eyes, but if this is an intricate genjutsu, the caster would have to run out of chakra at some point, right? The part of Naruto knows that is not the case. He does not know what exactly is going on, but he has close to no information on what exactly could be happening. He suspects the scroll, but that stupid thing is nowhere to be seen. He keeps his eyes peeled, and honestly with the way his mother rambles on and on about it and his father pulls him aside to give him a more calm warning about it, it doesn't take him too long to figure out what a quirk is. The quirk is like a Kekkei Genkai, just that most people in this world have one. It is usually genetic, but Naruto's quirk is possibly a rare case of mutation where his powers are unrelated to genetic lineage. Of course, because he is a ninja with a fox living in his stomach. He pushes this to the side for now and fits right into his new life. Kindergarten is fun enough, but school starts when he is 6 and Naruto, who is 5, has around a year before he is forced into compulsory education. School, he thinks and makes a face. If you're even here in a year's time, Kurama notes. Hurry up, Aniki. Katsuki calls and tugs on his arm. In the few weeks he has been here, Katsuki's speech has greatly improved. Naruto does not know how fast toddlers improve their speech, but Katsuki seems to have a generally fast grasp of everything. Naruto grins down at the boy. Sorry, yeah, let's go to Bayo. Katsuki quickens their pace, pulling him along, and Naruto hears Mitsuki let out a small but affectionate sigh as she hurries to match speeds with her younger son. They cross one final road and enter a park where Katsuki drops his hand and is immediately running towards the sandpit. Mitsuki wanders over to sit beneath a tree and Naruto turns to the object of his fascination during his past few visits. There is a new apartment being constructed right next to the playground, and Naruto finds himself fascinated by the machinery used to lift the massive beams to build up and up. He can picture Sakura lifting them over her shoulder and running up the side of the building, and laughs to himself. Itsuki soon wanders from his side, probably bored, and finds a shy, green-haired boy, and immediately appears to decide that he is now follower. Naruto watches in amusement as the other boy scrambles after his brother in an attempt to keep up as Katsuki leads them around the park. He considers joining them, but the sound of machinery once again catches his attention, this time from the other side of the park, where a group of men are working on the road. It is a while later when he feels something in the air, something tickling at the corner of his senses, and he looks up. Mitsuki is sitting at a bench, talking to a woman with green hair who he guesses is the mother of the boy. Katsuki and his new friend are nowhere to be seen. He reaches out with his chakra and pauses when he feels them hovering near each other, right below the construction site. That place is a stay-out area. He whips around, his bad feeling intensifying, and he can just barely make out the two boys inspecting something on the ground, right at the foot of the new building. Above them, a metal beam is being swayed by the wind. He jumps to his feet. Naruto sees the metal beam falling even before words can leave his throat. Neither boy seems to notice anything, and even if they did, they would not be able to move out of the way. Kurama. Chakra flares to life within his body, a familiar feeling after a while of keeping it dormant and hidden with him. He is across the playground in a blink of an eye, and he throws himself over his brother and the green-haired boy. Kurama's chakra easily deflects the falling beams, and the twin gasps of surprise beneath him turn into screams of fear when it is flung away from them. There are shouts of panic coming from around them, and once Naruto is sure nothing else will come falling their way, he grabs both boys around the stomach and moves away from beneath the construction. Itsuki comes rushing over, the green-haired woman right behind her. Katsuki. Naruto puts down both boys, who immediately run over to their respective mothers, crying. He stays rooted to his spot, every nerve in his body tingling for any signs of dangers. He knows it was an accident, but years of training and a life where danger could be around every corner rears its head. Kurama's power brimming beneath his skin is comforting, and he. Itsuki lunges at him and draws him into a hug. Naruto. Are you hurt? Naruto shakes off his thoughts and allows himself to relax into his mother's arms. No, he says. His mind whirls. My quirk. Thank you for saving my son, the other woman cries. If you haven't been there. Naruto smiles kindly. I'm glad he's not hurt Tobeo, he tells her, then turns to his mother with a grin. I guess we can go fill in that registration, huh? Naruto admits it is a little strange when no one reacts negatively to his powers. He knows the history of the nine-tailed fox does not exist in this world, but he still feels weird when all the doctors do is praise him for saving Katsuki and his new friend, Midoriya Izuku. He does not understand much how exactly quirk registration works, but he is called into what looks like a doctor's office a while later, and seated on a chair before the man dressed in a white coat tells his mother a bunch of things Naruto is not really bothered to listen to. He does cut in, however, when he hears something that makes Kurama growl in annoyance. It's a fox, he says, and everyone in the room turns to look at him. What do you mean, Naruto-kun? The doctor asks kindly. By quirk. Calling his powers a quirk is still a little strange. It's a fox. How do you know that? I can hear him, Naruto tells them. It's a fox. So, his quirk is named Kitsune. Nine-tailed fox, Kurama snarls. Not just a fox, a nine-tailed fox. They don't know that Naruto thinks back. Tell them, kid. Do you really want me to make things more complicated than it is? Haruno Sakura blinks and finds herself surrounded by crying men and women. Needless to say, she is confused. It takes approximately a minute for her to grasp the situation of the crying adults, but not necessarily what exactly is going on with herself. She remembers Naruto pulling the stupid prank, she remembers being assigned to clean the library archives as punishment. She remembers nothing after that. Apparently, she is a young girl whose parents had died just yesterday, which is a little unfortunate because if they had died a day later, she'd have been able to help them. And again, she is told that their car blew up, and while she has no idea what a car is, the fact that it blows up is enough to tell her that perhaps it would have been too late regardless. The news reports that there are no signs of foul play, but the men and women who had been there when she woke up tells her that it is probably anything but. Yakuza have lots of enemies, they tell her. What's a Yakuza? Sakura thinks. She is still confused, but she senses no threat from the people surrounding her. They appear loyal enough to her dead parents, which supposedly meant they were loyal to her, and many of them hang around to make sure she is coping properly. Sakura keeps an eye out for signs of a genjutsu as she allows her parents' subordinates usher her around, but she sees no signs of anything that could hint at one being used. That leads her to the conclusion that perhaps she is in another world altogether. Did a stupid scroll have that much power? She isn't entirely sure, but she had jumped through dimensions with a Beto before, it wouldn't be the strangest thing she has gone through. She learns that a car is a four-wheeled vehicle that moved using an engine. A carriage, she concludes, powered by technology. She rides one a few days later to attend the funeral of her parents. There is a somber atmosphere, but no one cries. Sakura does not either, mostly because she does not know her parents beyond the two photographs at the front of the hall. Apparently, there is no body to bury. After the ceremony, a single man remains in the room while everyone shuffles out with final words of condolences in her direction. Everyone calls him boss, and when he approaches her, she quickly follows the example of everyone else and bows. She might have done so regardless because she can instantly tell that this man is different from everyone else. He demands respect and everyone seems to differ to him. In a way, he reminds her of the third Hokage. Sakura, the man says, and she looks up. So, he knows her, and perhaps she should know him. I am sorry to hear what happened to your parents. They have served me loyally and well for many years, and you have my utmost condolences. Her parents worked under this man. Sakura takes note of this. Unsure of what else to say, she raises her head and says, thank you. Boss chuckles softly. I recently took in a young boy, he tells her. Only a few years older than you. Perhaps you would like to come with me as well. A murmur goes up around her, and Sakura looks up at the man again. He looks genuine, and while there is a hardness in his eyes she recognizes from years of experience and perhaps one price paid too many, she has a feeling he is making this offer for her. Go with you? She prompts. She does not know if she has a choice in the matter. The smile never fades, and all she receives is a nod. So, this is an all-or-nothing deal. Sakura dips her head again. It will be an honor, boss. The man looks up and over his shoulder. Come here, Kai. The entourage behind him parts and a young boy steps up. This is Sakura, he says. She will be joining us starting today. The boy gives a stiff nod before looking down at her. At first glance, she assumes he is like her and that the boss had taken him in. Please take care of me, she says. After everything is sorted, Sakura is ushered into a car with the boss and Kai. Apparently, she will not be going back to the house that had been her home. Sakura does not mind because she had literally woken up there 3 days ago. Being told that is her home doesn't really resonate with her. What has your parents told you about their work? Boss asks. Ai is looking out the window, but she can tell that he is also listening. Sakura is careful with her words. The bare minimum, she says like she is quoting someone. But I know it's important work. The boss smiles. You're just a child, he tells her. There's no need to rush. Once we return, you can slowly learn all there is to know about being a Yakuza and the Shai Hassaikai. Being a Yakuza is what killed her parents, Sakura thinks, but she holds her tongue. Shai Hassaikai. That is the name of an organization if she has ever heard one. Kai is now openly listening in on the exchange, and he puffs up his chest in pride when the name rolls off the boss's tongue. Honestly, Sakura feels rather accomplished already. If anyone hears that from a 5-year-old girl they might laugh it off or stare at her strangely, but she's sure none of them would be able to brag that they had literally been living another life until a few days ago. Regardless, she is kind of done with trying to be the single brain cell of Team 7. She will allow life to take her wherever, and if fate wants her to become a Yakuza, well. Understood, boss. Uchiha Sasuke blinks and finds himself standing in the middle of an empty street. He does not recognize it. He has no idea where he is, and activating his Sharingan is all it takes for him to understand that he is not in a Genjutsu of any sort. What did Naruto do this time? His body feels wrong. A single glance down at his hands tells him that the body he is currently inhabiting is not his. It is at least 10 years too young. There is a distinct lack of power in the chakra that surrounds him too. In fact, the way chakra is just a little different, more dormant, tells him that it is quite possible he is in a different world altogether. It takes him a moment to process, but he has seen dead people come back to life and had fought a rabbit goddess. He has come to accept that nothing should be thought impossible. He remembers hoping something would happen if only so that he could get out of cleaning duty, but this is a little extreme, even for him. Sasuke spends the next few hours exploring his surroundings. He keeps a careful eye on the state of his body, but senses no changes. Would the jump back be as sudden and abrupt as the beginning to his journey here? He feels a lump in his throat. Would he be able to return at all? What had happened to his teammates? If he ever sees Naruto again, he will murder the blonde. He senses a presence in front of him. He continues walking, though, because back in Konoha, and everywhere else really, people recognized him and scrambled to move out of the way when he came stalking. He forgets that he currently looks like a kid. He runs into them and smirks when the adult man stumbles backwards while he remains rooted to his spot. What's a kid doing here? Sasuke tries to walk past, but one of them grabs his arm. Oi, brat, you ignoring us? Brunk, Sasuke thinks. He can smell the alcohol on his breath. There are two other guys behind him. "I'm ignoring you, for you," he says, and he hates his voice for being so high-pitched. He tries to get his arm out of the man's grasp, but he refuses to let go. What was that? The man's entire body begins to glow. Alarmed, Sasuke rips his arm away and puts distance between himself and them. Another man behind the glowing guy now has elongated nails, and a third one has a long thick tail studded with spikes. Was that chakra? Sasuke's Sharingan flares to life and as the first man jumps at him. He could have restricted all three the moment they had looked at his eyes, but he is curious and moments later disappointed when he easily dodges away from his attacker's amateurish moves and knocks him away. He lashes out backwards, not even a glance over his shoulder, and sends his first attacker hurtling into the brick wall behind him. He realizes his mistake when a loud crack sounds from the direction he had sent the man flying. He dodges the attack from claws and slams his hand into the back of his neck as he stumbles past, knocking him out. The third man flings his tail in his direction, sending spikes flying his way, and Sasuke breathes fire, blowing it away. He shoots himself forward and makes quick work of him as well, before turning back to the first one. The quick brush of his hands against his pulse alerts him that he is still alive. Blood is seeping from a wound on his head where he had hit the wall. He honestly expected him to lighten his own crash. He had known his opponents were inebriated, but their appearances had made him forget that perhaps they were not shinobi. He moves all three, who are unconscious but alive, to the sidewalk. Hopefully, they won't remember much. He winces at the burn marks from his fire technique and quickly leaves the alleyway behind. Even after he had put enough space between himself and the street where he had left the drunk men to feel reassured, the few people wandering about outside shoots glances his way. Perhaps it is not normal for a child his age to be wandering around late at night. Not to mention, he is quite done for the day. He has nothing on him, but he is used to sleeping outdoors without camping gear. He wanders a little further until he comes across a playground. There is a red plastic tube thing high up and he clambers into it. The walls will keep the wind away and he trusts his instincts enough to wake him up if any sort of threat turns his way. He hopes that this is all a dream, but knowing that life isn't that kind, so instead, he curses his life and his team. The presence outside jolts him awake and Sasuke finds himself reaching for a weapon he does not have. He curses his lack of blade, though he is plenty confident of his ability to fight without one, and slowly makes his way towards where the presence is clearly waiting for him. The sun is just barely peeking out from behind the tall buildings. A man in a black suit is standing down below. Sasuke jumps out of his temporary sleeping space but keeps his distance. "What do you want?" The man holds up a piece of paper, a photograph, and Sasuke narrows his eyes when he recognizes the three unconscious men from last night. If he had his sword, he would have slowly drawn it in a threat. Since he doesn't, he settles with raising a hand to his face and letting his Sharingan flicker to life. The man before him had as much chakra as every other person he had passed after arriving here. However, he is a shinobi and he recognizes a dangerous person when he sees one. Not to mention, while the three drunk men from last night might have not been shinobi, they still had powers that, with proper training, could have made them formidable. Perhaps the people here had a power source different from chakra. In that case, he would have to be careful not to judge the threat level of someone in a way he usually did. "What do you want?" he repeats. "I am not going to hurt you." That is not an answer to his question. Sasuke fights the urge to roll his eyes. If this man thought he could hurt him, he would be very surprised. The man observes him for a moment. "Would you like to come with me?" he asks. "Your powers, I can teach you to control them." Sasuke keeps his face blank. That was sudden. Who did this man think he was? However, Sasuke recognizes the atmosphere surrounding the man. And really, did he have anywhere to go? He is suddenly thrust into a new world. It is quite possible he was someone until he had arrived, but that matters little because he had no idea who that might have been. He is a child, probably 5, and has no form of identification. Then, suddenly there is this unknown, suspicious, most likely dangerous man offering to take him in. Now, this feels familiar, Sasuke thinks. Perhaps fate was playing a prank on him. Maybe it is in his blood to catch the attention of strange men. The thought makes him scoff. He accepts if only to show fate that, no, he has not learned anything. Chapter 2. Itsuki's temper reminds Naruto of Sakura, which reminds him of Sasuke and Kakashi and Team 7, and that reminds him of Konoha. He tries not to think about it too much because he fears getting lost in the memories of his friends and thoughts of his previous life would render him unable to return to his current life, but sometimes, he cannot help himself. He had blinked and a year had passed. There had been no shifts in the air, no surges of chakra, and Naruto is close to giving up on the thought of ever returning to Konoha. He is no longer Uzumaki Naruto, and he has a feeling he will never be him ever again. He is used to making do, but a part of him hates that things are so unfair. He had worked so hard for the life he had earned in Konoha, and one stupid scroll had taken that all away. Naruto does not like being negative, has never allowed anything to keep him down for too long, so he shakes it off, pretends it doesn't bother him, and hopes that one day he will be able to convince himself as such. If anything, his family now makes things just a tad bit easier to deal with. Itsuki attends kindergarten with Izuku, the boy he had made friends with at the park. It is not compulsory education, but Naruto thinks it is nice that children have the opportunity to venture out and socialize before they are tossed into primary school. Which he will be attending in 2 days. Naruto makes a face. It's just school, Kid Kurama says. You were being a massive jerk, so you might not remember what it was like the first time around, Naruto retorts hotly. But it's bad, you hear me? Bad. Kurama huffs and his presence diminishes within him, as though the fox is done with him. Oh, I am done. Jinchuriki, new generation of Sannin, war hero, and scared of school. Hush. Naruto. His mother calls. It's time to go. Naruto lets out one more sigh before he plasters his usual grin on his face. Coming, Kachan. Itsuki knows there is something different about Naruto. It is as though one day, he woke up and everything had just fallen into place. She loves him, always will, but sometimes when she sees him staring into nothing, in his own little world, she feels as though she is not enough to keep her little boy rooted. But she finds she does not have to worry. Whatever it is that has a hold on her son, they, his family, have one too, and Naruto always drags himself back to them, smiling as wide as ever. She has a feeling Naruto will do just fine at school. He is just the right amount of confident and cheery, and he is kind to just about everyone he meets. He does not tolerate bullying, hates any mean comment thrown no matter the malice behind it, and brings relief with his presence alone. Still, she is a mother, and she reserves the right to worry. Naruto appears to share none of her nerves as he confidently walks alongside her towards his school. Katsuki, as usual, is plastered onto his brother's side and refuses to believe that he is not allowed to follow him past the school gates. I'll be back by evening, Naruto is telling him. I'll be sure to tell you lots of stories, Tobeo. But I want to go with you, Katsuki scowls. Naruto sympathetically ruffles his hair. In a few years, little guy. Katsuki huffs and tightens his grip. Mitsuki sees Naruto's gaze, so full of love and adoration, before he meets her gaze and rolls his eyes in exasperation. She holds back the urge to laugh. They reach the gates a while later, where Mitsuki has to pry Katsuki off of Naruto. I just ironed that shirt, she says. Do not wrinkle it, Katsuki. Naruto pats his brother on the head again, then vanishes in a puff of smoke. Katsuki lets out an alarmed gasp, but Naruto reappears a few feet from them, grinning apologetically. Sorry Katsuki, he says. I'll see you later. Then he is gone in a blink, and Mitsuki watches in amusement as Katsuki slowly closes his mouth before the temper that seems to have skipped over her older but been inherited by her younger clouds over his eyes. Aniki. Despite the fact that Naruto is underage and thus his identity should have been kept a secret, everyone seems to recognize him as the boy who rescued his brother and his friend from falling metals beams at a construction site. He is not used to being popular, and the fact that Kurama is the reason he is so strangely absurd that he has to fight the urge to laugh. Still, the teachers seem aware that he is a 6-year-old kid, and his classmates are too young to be aware of him beyond the fact that his quirk is kinda cool, that warms them up to him enough, though, and the rest is all his personality if he does say so himself. Also, he has to admit, primary school is not as bad as he had thought. Jinchuriki, new generation of Sannin, war hero, and primary school isn't. Oh, hush. It is boring if he is being honest, but the class content is easy enough to memorize and he relishes in feeling smart even if he is technically over 10 years older than his classmates and possibly as old as the young teacher in charge of his class. Jinchuriki, new gen. Kumara, shut up. 2 years later, when Katsuki is 5, he awakens his quirk. His sweat is nitroglycerin and his hands can ignite it and thus his quirk is named Explosion. It is a flashy quirk, a powerful quirk, one clearly passed down from their parents, and Katsuki is ecstatic. Naruto is happy that his brother is happy and watches as Katsuki preens under the attention of those around him. He has a feeling he'll have to deal with that in a few years' time, but for now, Katsuki is a kid and should be allowed to live as such. 2 weeks later, however, he is forced to stop and think. They are eating dinner, ramen at his request, when Katsuki shifts nervously in his seat and catches his attention. Naruto slowly chews, giving his brother time to sort out his thoughts. It is unusual for Katsuki to think over his words like he is doing now. Izuku's quirkless. Katsuki says the last word like a slur and Naruto looks up. He swallows the noodles in his mouth. Izuku. Katsuki makes a face at the word. He's quirkless, he repeats, like it is supposed to mean something. Naruto knows he isn't the smartest person around. He wonders if Sakura would understand what his brother is trying to say. Right. Itsuki huffs as though annoyed he is not understanding. You can't be friends with quirkless people. Naruto freezes. He loves Katsuki. He loves Masaru and Mitsuko. He loves the family he has been given, the family he hadn't had the first time around. But he hates bullying. He hates discrimination and prejudice and all the stupid beliefs out there that hurt people. He puts down his chopsticks, and because he never puts his chopsticks down when there are noodles in his bowl, Katsuki looks up. Why can't you be friends with quirkless people? Katsuki scowls. Cause they're useless, he says, but he sinks down into his chair. Why do you think that? Because they don't have quirks. And quirks make you what? Powerful. Heroes have to be powerful. Naruto frowns, wondering where this mindset had come from. He is sure his parents do not think this way. What if someone had a quirk that changed the color of their skin? He mentally apologizes to all the people out there who could change the color of their skin. Is that powerful? But my friends say. Friends, huh? Naruto knows Katsuki has been hanging out with Izuku since they had first met, and their mothers were close as well. They had been friends for months now. Something like being quirkless cannot just end years of friendship, can it? It will not if he has anything to say about it. I'm sure Izuku didn't choose to be born quirkless, he says. Didn't you say you both wanted to be heroes? Quirkless people can't be heroes. Neither can people who are mean, Naruto says, gently but firmly. Itsuki flinches and Naruto instantly feels bad. Still, he powers on because sooner or later, it is going to be too late. He will not allow childishness to ruin friendships and possibly destroy the dream of a young boy. Some people are born less fortunate than you, he says. He knows Katsuki is a good kid. Isn't it the job of a hero to protect them? Itsuki goes silent and scowls at the air in front of him. Naruto recognizes that his brother is thinking hard. He leans back a little. Because Izuku is quirkless, people will be mean to him, Katsuki finally says, and a hero will protect him from bullies. Naruto grins. Yup. Itsuki's face blooms into a smile. Right. He inhales the last of his ramen and rushes into the kitchen with his empty bowl. Ka-chan. I'm going out. Alone? It's already 7. Itsuki does not let the woman finish. He shoots out of the kitchen like a rocket and is out the door by the time Mitsuki rushes into the living room. That boy. Naruto finishes his own bowl. I'll go after him, he says. Mitsuki sighs. I swear. She says in exasperation. Thank you, Naruto. You both be careful. Naruto grins. We'll be fine, Tobeo. Izuku's life comes crashing down when he is told that he is quirkless. How can a quirkless person become a hero? His mother is apologetic and his friends flock away without a second thought, and he is so lost. But then, Katsuki comes back. It is a sudden return after he had so abruptly left him sitting at the park, and the blonde scowls at him for a moment before gruffly telling him that they were to continue their exploration of the new storage area that had been newly built. Their adventure is cut short soon after because it is late, but Izuku still feels a little confused when Katsuki demands he return the next day, at the same time, so that they can continue. He arrives at the park the next day just in time to see Katsuki shoving one of his former friends onto the ground. He is too far to hear what is being said, but he sees the boys Katsuki is talking to all run off, out the gates located on the other end of the park. The blonde claps his hands together before glancing over in his direction. You're late. Izuki flinches. Sorry. Katsuki huffs. Whatever. Come on, we didn't get to look around at all yesterday. He spins on his heel and marches off with the confidence Izuku has always admired of the boy and hastily scrambles after him. Were they friends? Itsuki is proud to be Naruto's younger brother. His brother is kind and happy, and being with him makes him feel like he can take on anything in the world. So, when Naruto tells him something that goes against what his friends seem to believe, well, it is obvious to him who is correct. Only a few days later, and Katsuki can't see that his brother is correct. Izuku has always been a little withdrawn and shy, but the fact that he is quirkless seems to hit him harder than anyone. Katsuki thinks of his own quirk, then tries to imagine being told that he did not have such powers, tries to imagine what it would have been like if Naruto had such an amazing quirk and he had just been skipped over. That thought in mind, he sticks to Izuku's side more aggressively than ever. He feels good when the children in their class shuffle away nervously when he glares at them, and no one dares to pick on Izuku, who appears to realize rather soon that he has no plans on abandoning him. Because heroes didn't abandon anyone, and that makes him a hero in Izuku's eyes, right? Beside him, Izuku trips on a loose brick and Katsuki's hand flashes out to grab his arm before he faceplants on the asphalt. Watch your step, he snaps. Izuku lets out a light laugh. Sorry, thanks Kaken. It's nothing. Katsuki huffs. At this rate, you'll be defeated by your own clumsiness before you even get to the fight. Izuku blanches. Fight. Itsuki rolls his eyes. Duh, we're gonna become heroes and fight villains, right? Izuku freezes before his small smile explodes into a full-on grin. Yeah. A few years later, on his birthday, Naruto receives a smartphone. He has seen people using them, his own parents owned them, but he had never actually seen the need or felt the desire to own one. They had phones back in Konoha, but none of them looked like this. The moment his parents leave the living room, he flips the phone over in his hands and peers at it. He fiddles with the buttons for a while and squints when the screen flares to life. So, what do I do with this? Itsuki looks up from his homework and rolls his eyes. You call people with it? Naruto has to admit, phones are much more reliable than messenger hawks. He doesn't know how exactly they work, but unlike hawks they are instant and he thinks they have fewer chances of being intercepted. Is that it? People walked around with their eyes on their phones all the time, he is sure there has to be something more to it. And thus, Katsuki introduces him to the wonder of mobile games. One of the hardest things Naruto ever has to do is not sit through a math test, nor is it not eating ramen whenever he feels like. Of course, he misses his teammates, his friends, but he is a shinobi. He is used to loss and letting go. No, what he finds the most difficult is sitting aside when he sees a villain wreaking havoc. Petty villains commit petty crime all the time, and Naruto is unable to raise a fist to help. He cannot without dragging Katsuki and his family into a whole load of mess regarding his quirk and his age and the law, so he clenches his fist and keeps himself rooted to the spot as he urges the heroes to arrive faster. They do, most of the time, but the fact that he could have done something is a feeling he is sure he will become more and more familiar with the longer he is here. Still, he gets there. Finally, Naruto begins his final year of secondary school, and high school choices become a big topic. It appears to surprise no one when he announces his aspirations to become a hero. He has several teachers willing to write him recommendations, and it really is a strange feeling. Itsuki helps him research hero schools and insists that UA is the best. Naruto does not really care for the weight of school names and whatnots, but his brother seems set on graduating from UA, and as an older brother, he should be there first and wait for him, right? His brother is extremely reliable. He finds forms and helps him fill them in. He gathers the papers required for his application and sends them all out early to take into account any delays. He grumbles about it the entire time, but he helps him. Naruto tries to lend a hand a few times, but Katsuki swats his hands away and delegates him to simple tasks like buying stamps and envelopes. You spilt ramen on the last copy, and Nikki, he huffs. Stay away. Naruto laughs nervously, puts his purchases on the table next to his brother, then steps away. He receives instructions for the UA entrance exam by letter, and he finds himself excited about something for the first time in a while. Within him, Kurama's presence seems to spread throughout his entire body at the prospect of finally getting to fight. Are you nervous? Mitsuki asks. Naruto grins and shakes his head. I'm going to become a hero, Tobeo. There's a written test. Shut up, Kurama. Naruto finds himself traveling to UA for the practical exam alone. His parents have work and his brother has school, and they all worry and fret that he will be late or get lost or something as he tries to reassure them before his departure. He arrives at UA in one piece, though, and sends his family a text to let them know before he turns off his phone and simply follows the crowd to his first destination. After listening to an opening ceremony of sorts, he follows the applicants assigned to the same group as him and enters a massive structure made to look like a city. This is his chance to go all out. He is in a controlled environment, under the watchful eye of heroes who are judging them and surrounded by children who probably had quirks they thought were suitable to a life as a hero. The gates open and Naruto is off. Chakra pumps through his body. He can hear the other applicants also move into the city way behind him, but by then he is long ahead of them. He sees his first robot when he turns a corner and does not hesitate. Rasengan. In hindsight, it might not have been the smartest idea to start off with such a flashy, high-damage move, but Naruto finds he does not care much at this point. He tells himself that it is so that he can gauge how much strength it takes to take out one of them, and when the machine is blown to smithereens from his attack, he lets out a nervous laugh. Too much damage, then. He soon falls into a familiar routine. He blasts through the robots with ease, Kurama's burning chakra cloaking his body more than enough to melt through them. He loses track of his points, does not remember which robot is worth how many if he is being honest, and simply allows himself to get lost in the thrill of a fight. He steps in to help a few others too, because that is just who he is, and by the time he comes to a momentary pause, he is just the faintest bit out of breath. You've lost your touch, Kurama says, but the sound is more feral growl than normal speech, and Naruto can tell he is just as ecstatic. We're against robots, Naruto thinks back. No reason to go all out. So, kid, remember that large zero-pointer during the information session? Yeah? Naruto does not have to go looking for the zero-pointer because it finds him. It appears from within one of the buildings amidst a cloud of smoke, and the shouts of surprise of the other applicants are drowned out by the loud noise of concrete being shattered. Everyone's panic is cut short, however, because Naruto flies at it with a whoop and obliterates it with his biggest Rasengan yet before it can raise either of its large metal arms. He leaves the site confident of his practical results, but nervous about the written test, but soon after learns that there had been absolutely nothing to worry about when he is accepted into UA with the highest points in its history. Whatever he had lost in the written exam, he had more than made up for in the practical. His parents are proud and Kitsuki is ecstatic, as though he had been the one to get accepted. He hears the boy bragging about it to a wide-eyed Izuku and can only suspect his brother when he arrives at his secondary school a few days later and everyone flocks towards him to congratulate him. Uzumaki Naruto received the highest points ever for an entrance exam into an education facility. He wants to tell Sakura and Sasuke if only to see their reactions. He doubts either of them will believe him. In a way, he is becoming a hero for them too. He is sure that if his friends had been in his place, they would also be using their abilities for the people. Or he thinks they would maybe. Itsuki once again helps him with his forms, and while Naruto is more or less banned from touching the papers, he is allowed near them to share his opinion on his hero outfit. You send in your idea now, Kitsuki explains, eyes roaming the explanation form, and they have it made for you in time for the beginning of the term. Or they're like, restrictions. Kitsuki shrugs. Not really. Naruto has a terrible, wonderful idea, and the moment his pencil touches paper, he finds himself unable to stop. He can feel Kitsuki intently peering over his shoulder as he spills his memories out onto a drafting sheet of paper. What's a Hokage? His brother asks after a while. It's Naruto takes a deep breath, someone who protects people. Things are kind of jumpy because the main plot Y bits aren't here yet and I want to get there faster, so bear with me. Izuku and Kitsuki are friends cause I said so. Okay, this is hard. I have no idea what happened 2 years before Canon BNHA started rep. I have Sakura's bit written cause that's mostly up to my imagination, but I'm struggling with Sasuke's part cause I feel like heroes and villains have more significant roles in the plot and I don't want to wreck things too much. Sakura's kinda off doing her own shit. Thank you for your support so far, the next chapter will be Sakura and the one after will be Sasuke. Chapter 3. Back when she had been a shinobi, Sakura worked under 3 different Hokage. They had all been powerful, accomplished shinobi, but if there was one thing they had in common, it was that they hated paperwork. Another thing in common was that Sakura ended up doing it for them. That had been on top of her busy schedule as head of the hospital. So, while Sakura herself might not have had any direct experience leading an entire group of people, she knows how things work on the inside. She also knows how to sell her values in an organization she can work well within, considering her skillset. People call her chakra-enhanced strength a quirk, and a simple flip through a book at a store is all it takes to find almost all the information regarding it. She knows that the internet and computers are the primary sources of information gathering, as Kai often tells her, but the technology does not sit well with her, she is not yet used to it, and honestly speaking, the flashing screen makes her eyes hurt. She has barely used the phone the boss had given her. Throughout the next few years, she builds herself a strong foundation within the Shai Hassaikai. Brash, stupid adults might be against following the orders of a young girl, but those who are smart or possess even a little survival instinct understands that she is worth keeping around. She has a powerful quirk, was born into the Yakuza and knew no other world, and has the favor of the boss. She flaunts her prowess and her mental fortitude. She accompanies the boss without complaint and completes the tasks given to her without error or delay. The magnitude of said tasks increase every time, and she feels it as her position slowly but surely shifts within the organization. She might be cheating, but being treated like a child genius is a nice feeling. Sakura is quickly accepted as a gifted child with great potential, and at age 10, she is assigned a handful of men as subordinates and bodyguards before she is promptly tossed out onto the streets as the Shai Hasaikai's head and face of weapon dealing. Really, she wonders how the boss had kept their family alive and afloat all this time. Still, perhaps the fact that he had handed her the role spoke of his experience and skill better than anything else. After all, Sakura doubts anyone else would have handed a 10-year-old child any role of influence within a Yakuza family, no matter how smart they were. Regardless, Sakura appreciates something to do because it allows her to momentarily forget about that fact that this is not her life, not really. The men assigned to her are simple-minded enough that their loyalty to the boss is enough for them to follow her instructions, and the first job she successfully leads to a beneficial deal is all it takes for them to accept her. In a world where quirks get more and more powerful as it is passed down, Sakura is sure there are people smarter than her out there, or will be one day. Still, she has experience, and that isn't something one can learn from reading a book. Her new role takes her all over Japan. She quite enjoys the traveling and, if it comes down to it, she will agree that she likes her task as well. It is a little different from politics, which she had courted like a lover when she worked under 3 different Hokage, but the concept is relatively the same. Spread the means of conflict with one hand and protect peace with the other, all at her whim and the benefit it brought to the Shai Hassaikai. Sakura first travels to Shiga when she is 11. A relatively new unknown gang is looking to purchase some weapons. Sakura is skeptical, but the boss requests she take a look at all potential regulars anyways, just in case. Sakura does as she is told, which is why she is currently being led through the base of said new group, but she is sure that this will not turn out well. She keeps an eye out on every doorway, every other presence in the base, as she follows a man to what she can assume is the heart of the gang's operations. Refusing upfront payment was a sign that they either did not know how weapon dealing worked or an overestimation of their own importance and skills. Insisting the deal be done in their own base was, again, overconfidence or a lack of understanding. Additionally, they had been extremely wishy-washy about the cash-only payment she had demanded. "We checked the goods," the man, the leader, tells her. "It's all good quality shit." Sakura smiles. "That's good to hear," she says. "Now, the money, please, and the containers are yours." The leader waves his hand and a few of his men step up with suitcases in hand. He takes one of them and places it down onto the table between them. The suitcase is pushed out towards her and Sakura flips open the lid. She stares at the small bags of white powder sitting neatly within. "What is this?" The man looks at her like she is stupid. "It's high-quality stuff," he says. Sakura sighs. "We agreed on cash." The man laughs. "If you sell it, you should get more than our agreed price." Sakura has never liked drugs. She has the ability to negate its effects due to her chakra, but she has seen the effects types of it could wreak on a body of those who did not have the same abilities as her, even during her time as a medic. Despite that, she had seen plenty of shinobi willingly turn to the temporary euphoria it brought. In their line of work, she could understand why. Still, regardless of her personal feelings regarding the bags of white powder sitting neatly within the suitcase, the Shai Hassaikai did not deal with drugs. "You agreed to cash." The man clicks his tongue and his smile drops. "Brat," he sneers. "Just take the foo." Sakura grips one of the handles of the suitcase and hurls it across the room. It spins so fast that the bags of drugs do not fall out until it embeds into one of the walls. "I knew we should have rejected this deal," she says, to no one in particular. With an enraged shout, the leader draws his gun. Alarmed cries go up around her, but Sakura calmly watches him cock the weapon, point it in her direction, and shoot. The bullet sinks into her shoulder, but Sakura hides her wince. She glares up, unimpressed, and makes a show of sending chakra to her wound. The bullet is pushed out of her body and lands on the floor with a soft metal sound. The hole seals itself up before their eyes. "Did you really shoot a member of the Shai Hassaikai?" Sakura does not give him the chance to reply. She body flickers to a spot right in front of him, hand outstretched, and slams his head into the ground with enough strength to crack his skull and form a crater in the ground beneath him. Instantly, everything around her explodes as her men draw their own weapons. Some of them activate their quirks. Sakura dodges what looks like string, maybe spider webs, and kicks another of the members into the far wall. The cleanup is done in an instant. Sakura pats down her skirt and glances around to make sure that there are no casualties on their side. "Finish cleanup, please," she says. "There's something I want to check out." She slips out of the room they are in and locates the stairs she had seen earlier. She makes sure her footsteps are intentionally loud as she makes her way up and pauses at the single door at the top. The chakra signature within flickers. She steels herself and knocks. There is no reply, but honestly, she is not surprised. She tries the handle, but it is locked and with a grimace, she punches through the part of the wood where the lock would be before shoving it down. Something jumps out at her. The boy is only a little taller than her. He has pale gray hair and piercing red eyes, and there is a snarl on his lips as he grabs the arm she had instinctively raised to try and block his attack. Sakura cannot instantly explain the pain that shoots up her limb, but war-honed instincts instantly rear its head, even if her mind takes a second to process. Her body instantly begins pumping chakra to her hands, her life energy fighting to counter the death crawling up her limbs and emitting a light green glow as it works, and by then her brain has recovered and caught up. Her chakra scans the damage as it stitches together the bones and muscles threatening to break apart, and the instant she understands how it is happening her years of training kick in. Chakra coats the surface of her arm, cutting off the direct contact between her and the boy, and the pulse of death trying to eat away at her instantly stops. The boy's eyes widen, and he lets go of her as though burned. He stumbles backwards, eyes insane and hands trembling. Sakura inspects where he had grabbed her and heals the last bit of damage. "Hi," she says. Channel her inner Naruto, she thinks. The boy is breathing heavily but makes no moves to attack. Sakura raises her hands, well aware that no weapon is not a sign of no danger, and smiles. I'm Sakura, she says. What are you doing here? There is no way the boy had not heard the gunshots and the fight that had erupted downstairs. Regardless of why, the fact that he has stayed up here suggested that the men they had killed held little to none of his loyalty. She gives him a quick glance over, noting his tattered appearance and the hollow look in his eyes. We killed all the men in the building, she says. 9 of them. Can you tell me if there are more? The boy narrows his eyes. There shouldn't be, he says quietly. The start. Sakura nods. I see, thank you. Her phone beeps and she shoots it a quick glance. It appears cleanup is done and they can leave. She turns back to the boy. So, any plans now? The boy keeps quiet and honestly, Sakura cannot blame him. If he is not loyal but he is still here, there is probably nowhere else for him to go. He is older than her, but barely. A child thrust into a situation without a choice and forced to bear the brunt of the consequences. The tragic circumstances sounded familiar and she doubts the boy will be able to live through it. Not everyone is a Naruto. Her friend will help the boy, she thinks. Naruto will make sure the boy never becomes a victim to circumstances and will go about changing the system that would have made him one while he is at it. Sakura, however, knows the price of putting herself responsible for the lives of more people than she could ever hope to support. Being a medic had hammered that into her faster than anything. She is not Naruto, whose boat had been a cruise ship and could pull aboard anyone he wanted to offer a hand to. She is simply Sakura, who'd poured in time and effort to make up for lack of talent and bled tears and blood to try and be enough. She is Sakura who, despite everything she had given, could only scream at the cruelty of war as lives slipped away between her fingers like sand. Things had gotten better after the war, of course, but she will never forget those she had failed to save. I can take you in, she offers. She had felt what his quirk could do, she is sure that power-wise, he will fit well into her line of work. Besides, this time she has long abandoned her boat. Dragging a boy along as she is swept down the river of life couldn't be too hard, right? The boy narrows his eyes. What do you want? From you? Sakura shrugs. Nothing. But you have nowhere else to go, no? What do you do? Sakura considers this for a moment. We're a little like your previous companions, she says slowly. Just with a more firm moral code. So you want me to kill people? Sakura narrows her eyes at this. Is that what they made you do? She does not wait for a reply. I'm strong enough to do the killing myself, she says. Your help would be completely unnecessary. Her phone beeps again. She scans through the message and shoots back a quick reply. You don't have to stay, she tells him. Maybe just until things have calmed down. If you have people who can take you and I can even take you there. After that, we'll never see each other again. You will forget you met me and go on living your life. The boy clenches his fists at his side, but just before Sakura can prompt him once more he nods stiffly. Okay. You're coming. She checks, and the boy nods. Great. My men are ready to leave. We're leaving Shiga tomorrow, actually. You can stay at our hotel for tonight. Sakura spins on her heel and makes her way back down the stairs. She can hear the boy following her. I'm Sakura, by the way. Tenko. Shimura Tenko. Shimura Tenko remembers the day everything he had known slipped away from between his fingers, both figuratively and literally. He remembers the screams of his mother, his sister, of everyone he's ever loved, and he also remembers that of his father, the very man he'd hated and feared. He remembers thinking that, maybe, the heroes would come to save him. But no one had. The time between losing everything and being found by the small no-name gang is a blur, and what happened afterwards is something he is perfectly fine with forgetting, but it had kept him clothed and fed. Tenko sees a bunch of cars parked outside the moment they step out of the building. Men and women dressed in crisp suits freeze when they see him trailing behind the pink-haired girl. Sakura waves her hand dismissively. He's with me, she says, and while it doesn't seem to reassure anyone they all lower their weapons. Why were grown men and women differing to a little girl who barely looked 10? Sakura leads him towards one of the black cars parked nearby. It's already 6. She mutters. Tenko. What do you want for dinner? Tenko jumps. What? Dinner? Sakura repeats. You haven't eaten yet, have you? Is there anything you want to eat? Tenko stiffly shakes his head, still unsure of what exactly is going on and worried that the girl will still turn around, gun in hand, and kill him. When she turns around, however, her hands are empty and she is instead holding the door open for him. Come on. Tenko ducks into the car, instantly noting that it is nicer than the one the gang had owned. He'd ridden it often, usually when he was sent off to disintegrate the body of someone they'd killed. Sakura appears to not notice his discomfort. She rattles off the name of some mall to the driver before smiling at him. Let's get okonomiyaki, she says. She fishes out her phone from her pocket and appears to send a text. Did you know Hiroshima and Osaka make it differently? She continues to ramble for a while and does not seem to mind his silence. The driver is quiet, though he does shoot them looks via the rear mirror once in a while. I hope you aren't particularly attached to this place, Sakura says suddenly, because like I said earlier we're only here for business and we'll be traveling to Yokohama tomorrow. Tenko tries to sink deeper into his seat. Not really, he murmurs. It is true, after all. After he had killed his family, he had lost everything that might have rooted him to his home prefecture. Sakura watches him for a moment before she nods. Okay. I'd ask you if there's anything you want to pack, but I'm guessing I'd be wasting my breath. What's Yokohama like? Sakura pauses in thought. Busy, I suppose, she says slowly. Much busier than this place for sure. The buildings are taller around the city center, but you can still find farms and rice fields if you drive out towards the country. Tenko had seen pictures of Yokohama, but that is about it. Oh. Sakura smiles at him. I'll show you around when we get there, she promises. Do you travel often? Sakura hums in affirmation. We're almost never still, she says, though I do slip in breaks once in a while. I went to Universal Studio a month or so ago. I'll take you the next time we travel to the area. Tenko hums, listening but not really registering. The car chooses that moment to come to a soft halt and Tenko glances out to see that they are parked outside an okonomiyaki stand. Sakura steps out and he quickly follows. You can go back first, Sakura says, and Tenko realizes that she is talking to the driver. The hotel isn't too far. We'll head back afterwards. The driver looks unsure, shooting him wary glances, but he does not attempt to argue. Please call if you need a ride after all. Sakura salutes him with 2 fingers and waves him off with a grin. Tenko watches the car leave and jumps in surprise when a hand grabs his. He instinctively tries to snatch his limb away from the girl who had grabbed him, but a surprisingly strong grip keeps him from doing so. Sakura is looking at him knowingly and Tenko feels the strange warmth he had first felt when he grabbed Sakura back at the gang's base. Their quirk? He asks. Sakura nods. Something like that. She shifts her grip so that they are more comfortably holding hands. Let's go. Tenko cannot remember the last time he held hands with someone, probably before he had killed everyone who might have been willing to. It feels weird. How does your quirk work? Tenko stiffens at the question and Sakura seems to take his silence as mistrust. I'll tell you how mine works. She offers. Though if I'm being honest I don't really know. Sakura smiles indulging. I can feel my own life force inside me, she says. I call it chakra. I can control the energy and do things with it. Right now, I'm coating the entirety of my hand with healing chakra. Was she healing the damage his hands were wrecking? A quirk that could heal, that must be nice. He remembers wanting to be a hero. If he had a quirk like hers, perhaps he could have been one. Like quirk I touch things and make it disintegrate. So simple, yet so dangerous. He wonders if Sakura can feel his discomfort because she gives his hand a gentle squeeze. You can't turn it off? Sakura asks softly. Oh, how he wishes he could. No. Sakura lets out a hum. I see. Doesn't it scare you? Tenko blinks as the words leave his mouth. He hadn't meant to. Sakura lets out a laugh and swings their linked hands. Not really, she says. I'm pretty hard to kill and I can make things disintegrate too. She sticks her head into the stand. A table for 2 please. A cheery voice welcomes them in and Sakura leads them over to empty seats. A woman brings them 2 cups of tea and hands them the menu. Tenko carefully places his hands on the table. That must be inconvenient, huh? Tenko grimaces. I don't have much of a choice. Sakura closes the menu she had been flipping through. So you need all 5 fingers for your quirk to activate. She reaches into a pocket and pulls out a pair of gloves. She then lifts a finger, which glows blue, and slices through a few of the fingers. Here. Tenko slowly takes the gloves. What? You won't be touching anything with all 5 fingers with those, Sakura says. That should work, right? I can have a pair properly made for you later if they do. Tenko uncertainly slips on the gloves, then accepts the pack of tissue Sakura holds out. His heart almost leaps out of his throat as he does, because it does not fall apart in his hands. Oh. Sakura grins and leans towards him. Nice. She places the menu between them. Now pick what you want. We plan to leave early tomorrow morning, so best not be too late getting back. The hotel Sakura leads him into is one of the best in the prefecture. Tenko suddenly feels extremely out of place in his simple shirt and shorts, but no one stops him or even gives him a second glance. Sakura, on the other hand, looks right at home. She greets the hotel staff who politely nod their heads in her direction and confidently selects the upper floor suites on the lift. He still has no idea what Sakura is doing surrounded by men and women clearly armed with guns, but the moment they step off the lift, they find a small group of people waiting for them. Sakura waves them over. Princess, a small organization in Amori, would like to place orders for RPG-7s. Amori? Isn't that under the jurisdiction of the Tsugaru gang? Run a check to see if there's a reason why the request is being sent our way. The boss requests a sales report to be sent in by the end of the week. I have that finished, I'll send it in tonight. The Iwanaga group is requesting deferred payment for the latest shipment of ammunition. If I recall, we've had dealings with them for the past decade. I'll allow it just this once. Accept payment only in cash. Tenko stands where he is, unsure of what he is supposed to do. Soon, the number of people decline, until finally, it is only him and Sakura again. Sorry about that, Sakura says, grinning. You'll be rooming with me for tonight. Do you want anything to drink? I can have something sent up if you are. I have to wrap up some work things, but in the meantime, you can take a shower. We'll get you new clothes tomorrow. Tenko does as she said, not sure if it is an order or a suggestion. The shower is nice, and he feels clean for the first time in a while. He hears the door to the bathroom open, and when he peeks out he sees the hotel robes and a towel laid out where he can reach them. Once he steps out, he sees that Sakura is glaring at a laptop screen. Unsure of what to do, he sits down on one of the couches and starts drying his hair. You can turn on the television, Sakura calls. Tenko does so, if only to fill the silence. He recalls what Sakura had said earlier. He recognizes some of the names she had mentioned, having heard of them among his previous affiliation. He might have long given up on the dream of becoming a hero, but what Sakura did in her line of work was villainy, right? But he'd already aided in destroying evidence of murder, wasn't he already a villain? Are you having doubts, Tenko? Tenko jumps. What? Sakura is grinning at him, merely a few steps away from him. He hadn't even realized she'd moved from the desk. Sometimes, when nothing in your life's in your control, you can just allow yourself to be swept along, just until you manage to catch your breath. If anything, it's easier. Of all the confusing things Sakura has said and done so far, this one he feels like he understands. Is that how you ended up? He doesn't know how to describe it here. Sakura freezes for a moment before she bursts out laughing, and Tenko is sure he sees tears at some point. The pinket rubs at her eyes and takes a deep breath. Ish. She says, and she doesn't sound too sure. If I'm being honest, I'm still kind of letting life wash me wherever. I've done my share of things already. Sakura could not be older than 10. His confusion must have shown on his face because she laughs again and affectionately ruffles his hair. Maybe I'll tell you one day. Chapter 4. Sasuke is a little disappointed to learn that, despite now technically being a villain, he will not be seeing combat for a while. He is 7, and he doubts the self-proclaimed master villain had earned the title by being stupid enough to send 7-year-old soldiers into the fight against the heroes, but a small part of him had hoped. Instead, his days are spent doing what the man, all for one, apparently considers training. Sasuke has never been one to hold himself back, so he breathes fire and summons lightning. He keeps the abilities of his Sharingan to himself, just in case, but he does not hesitate to show off what else he can do. All for one is fascinated and appears unable to put a name to his quirk, which Sasuke learns people usually have one of, and tells him that he may be an unusual case. Since he is technically a villain and thus he cannot go marching into an official quirk registration office, he is allowed to name it himself. Determined to pick one he will not regret, he decides to wallow on it for a while. He learns soon after that he has landed in a prefecture called Okayama, which is located between two major cities, Osaka and Hiroshima, and thus is basically a place people have heard of but know almost nothing about. He hears that the water is delicious, which means good sake, but he also learns that the legal drinking age is 20, which is 13 years away, and Sasuke is glad, again, that he is a villain, and it is in his job description to do illegal things. He is soon after introduced to Kurogiri, a man who appears more black mist than person, and finds himself on the other side of the country a few days late due to his quirk. All for one is somewhat of a figurehead of the villains, he learns, but his body had been wrecked in a fight against some hero called All Might a while ago, which marked the end of the time where villains ruled, or something. Sasuke does not know the details, but perhaps the man wanted to bring back the days of the villains. That would certainly explain the man's slightly disturbing love-hate opinion of said hero. Regardless, Sasuke does not care much for all the side drama. All for one is looking to make him his successor, and that sounds exciting enough that he is willing to just go with it. He overhears him talking to Kurogiri about the missing grandson of some hero, but he is not interested enough to listen in. All for one is the most feared villain of all, but Sasuke is sure he can beat the man in a fight. Kurogiri's quirk is considered powerful, but that is because it is useful, not necessarily strong. Back in the shinobi world, Sasuke had always had a goal, and it is strange to live a life where he has no aim, no ambition. He is already bored of this world, so he might as well go along with someone who appears to have a plan, right? Betting to fight a man renowned as the symbol of hope sounds promising as well. He is the successor of the symbol of evil, so surely they will clash in the near future. This world appears much bigger than the elemental nations. He hears that there are many heroes out there, as well as several other opposing villain organizations. Perhaps he will find someone strong enough to fight somewhere. There is something about Sasuke that makes All For One think that the boy almost made up for not finding Shimura on his grandson. Almost, because the psychological damage that would have caused All Might would have been a blow like no other. Still, the boy breathes fire and calls lightning as easily as blinking, and he cannot deny the power he holds in his hands. Sasuke had been an unexpected find, but he is certainly a welcome one. He is quiet about his past, though All For One has managed to search around a little to find out that he came from an orphan background. The orphanage system in their country is not as advanced as the general public appears to like to think, with unorganized records and unreliable data, which then means it is difficult to track down the origins of the children within it. Sometimes, the children come from unfortunate situations where they had been abandoned, and if that is the case, it will be close to impossible to track down Sasuke's parents. Still, there is no news of missing children, and while All For One decides to be careful for a little longer regarding his new ward, there probably is not much he has to worry about. Regardless, power like his is something he is more than happy to work with. He will groom Sasuke to become his successor. During his early days, Sasuke spends some time testing out his chakra abilities. Jinjutsu, which affects one's senses through the use of chakra, had been something he had been especially curious about because he had not been sure if a lack of chakra meant amplified or dampened effects. He is pleased to learn that it is it former when a simple genin level Jinjutsu keeps All For One entertained with his supposed progress in training while he sneaks out to explore the busy city of Tokyo. He tries out a few more simple illusion techniques, some on a larger scale in public areas, and the results he garners are largely the same. His chakra just as he remembers back in his own world, and both his Sharingan and Rinnegan function just as they should. The environment, like the grass and the trees, react to chakra in similar ways and feel familiar to the ones in his own world, but possibly due to the lack of chakra in the people themselves, the man-made structures surrounding him feel especially lifeless when he turns his attention to them. It is a strange feeling, being homesick, because what he misses is not necessarily Konoha, but the elemental nations as a whole. He misses the chakra and the very air he had breathed back then because it is so different from what he has now. He is sure no one has ever missed the feeling of chakra because everyone, even the civilians that had never cast a jutsu in their life, lived every day surrounded by life energy. If he ever finds his way back, he is going to hold Naruto in place for Sakura to punt to Suna. Everything you're going through is the fault of the heroes, All For One often tells him. Sasuke doesn't understand how the heroes were responsible for flying him into another dimension, but he does not question it. He has long learned that questioning men like this never really get him anywhere. Still, while his situation may not necessarily be the hero's fault, he can see the flaws of the society he has begrudgingly begun to accept as his new home. Besides, he recognizes indoctrination for what it is and wallows in amusement as the man attempts to do it to him. The man is trying his best, he is sure, but Sasuke is around 10 years older mentally than his current body, and he has already gone through several evil figures trying to turn him to their side for their own causes. He will internally admit that his decision-making in his past life was not always the best, but at the end of it all, it had been Naruto, not his mediocre life choices, that flung him out of one dimension and into another. Naruto had essentially done everything right in his life. Did that not mean that in the end none of it mattered? Sakura was more of a wrong place, wrong time situation. A girl with no real social standing, no clan backing, who had been thrust into a team of 2 ticking time bombs. He would insist that they had turned out okay, but on a particularly bad day, he is pretty sure both Sakura and Kakashi would argue otherwise. Sasuke, it's time for your medical checkup. The Uchiha abandons the boring comic he had been flipping through and makes his way towards the door. All For One's idea on parenting, or whatever it is he is attempting to do after picking up a lost boy on the street, is messed up and twisted, and Sasuke is partially disgusted and largely grateful that it had been him that had been found. There is no violence, no fists thrown. One might call it a simple punishment and rewarding system, but Sasuke is certain what the man did can well be counted beneath the subcategory of mental abuse. The act of a parent attempting to convince a reluctant child to do something might be a sign of good parenting, but trying to get a child to murder was probably not. Sasuke may have grown up his first life in a shinobi clan, where one was trained to kill, but he knows that the morals of a society decided on right and wrong, and in the one he was currently in, where the line of good and evil was so clearly drawn through the words hero and villain, the act of murder, the very thought of it, probably should not be encouraged within anyone. He is a shinobi at heart, and he takes it both in stride and with a grain of salt, but the thought that, in another world, it would be another child facing all for one's idea of child raising, makes something within him twist painfully. Perhaps he has been spending too much time with Naruto. All for one probably has some deep-rooted trauma with him. Naruto would see him as another project, maybe send him down the path of politics to change the hero system, and whatever had angered him about it, or maybe an orphanage where he taught crafts instead of murder. Or Sakura, she would definitely punch all for one. He has the air of someone punchable, and while he does not know what exactly makes someone punchable, if he were being honest, if Sasuke wants to punch the man, he is sure Sakura will feel the urge as well. Sasuke's fist might do damage, but Sakura's does damage, and that seemingly insignificant difference is one that can decide whether or not Japan deserves Mount Fuji. He would love to watch Sakura, or Naruto or even himself, really, destroy it just to see how they aired it on the TV. Sasuke rolls his eyes at his own thought before he turns back to the box sitting on his bed. He had been told that it contained the newest gaming console of some company, released only a few days ago. He had gotten it in exchange for setting an isolated storage house on fire. It had been empty when he had set it on fire, but he is sure the idea is all the same. He contemplates setting it on fire too, but then he catches a glimpse of the television he had received last week for setting something else on fire and decides he might as well. He follows the instructions on the manual and sets it up before he pops a random game disc into the console. Shippuden. Ultimate Ninja Storm X. Sasuke breathes through his teeth, then selects the game on the screen. Aiming systems are not the only thing All for One gifts him. Sasuke has collections of books and comics, toys, figures, and a whole bunch of other things, ranging from trinkets to actually branded goods that he thinks a person his age in this world should be happy to receive. He can picture Naruto enjoying it, but he honestly has no idea what to do with half the items he owns. Most of it is too bulky to carry around as well, and because he often spends his time teleporting around with Kurogiri to visit different hideouts and meet new associates, he is sure there are things in his possession that he had looked at once since he had received them. He keeps his phone on him always, though, and he installs plenty of games on them to kill time, and he soon finds himself rather addicted to some shooting game. He did not know what a username was until Kurogiri kindly informed him that it was an identification one used online. After a moment of contemplation, he had set his username to Tomato Avenger and jumped into his first ever match of the FPS. He is annoyed when he finds that the little guy on the screen that is supposed to be him is unable to dodge bullets like he is sure he would be in a real fight, but he gets over it rather quickly. The last guy standing is the winner, and Sasuke has a winning streak first game in. He plays when he has nothing to do, and he makes a name of himself in the community. One day, however, in a game that he had joined several minutes before a scheduled maintenance, ready for it to disconnect mid-game but too bored and not too bothered to care, he meets someone who catches his eye. First, it is their skill in the game. Sasuke and the other player are rather quickly left as the last two alive. The game soon disconnects as maintenance begins, but just before the screen freezes, he catches a glimpse of his opponent's name. Ramenlover7. Sasuke coughs, half annoyed that someone with such a stupid name had managed to keep up with him in-game, but it is nostalgia that prompts him to send a friend request, a feature he had never used up until that point. Or, he would have had he not logged in the next day to see that Ramenlover7 had sent him a request first. He accepts it. The Kuta Kajuru, Jiren, meets the rumored successor personally being raised by All for One when the boy is 10. The young boy that is led to the temporary meeting spot in the underground market of Nagasaki by Kurogiri instantly strikes him as an adult stuck in a child's body. He recognizes the look in his eyes, and there is something familiar about the way he carries himself. Jiren would have expected a child of his age to be excited at the change in environment or scared at the obviously eerie room, but Sasuke glances around the makeshift office with something close to complete disregard before shifting his mismatched eyes to look at him. Kurogiri. The man gestures towards him and Jiren dips his head. Sasuke may be a child, but he has All for One's protection and he clearly belongs in this world. Jiren, he introduced himself. I act as a broker for the League of Villains led by your teacher. Sasuke's eyes roam over his figure and Jiren feels strangely violated when he finally stares him straight in the eye. Sasuke, he replies curtly. I burn things. Kurogiri lets out a sound that might have been a protest or laugh, but Sasuke pays him no mind. He accepts the hand Jiren holds out and shakes it firmly, then sits on the couch he gestures towards. Kurogiri stands behind him. All for One had sent notice beforehand that Sasuke would be accompanying Kurogiri on his task today. It is a job usually handed to someone else, but it appears Kurogiri and Sasuke are here today specifically so that the former can teach the latter the ropes of the business. The boy is still a child, but All for One clearly sees something in him. Jiren files this away as valuable information and turns to Kurogiri. Amori-based organization Malum tried to get in contact with a weapon dealer with ties to the Shai Hassaikai. Sasuke perks at this. Not Sugaru. Sugaru is a gang in alliance with the League of Villains, and Malum had been perfectly happy making purchases from them until recently. Jiren finds himself impressed and turns to the boy. No, he confirms. There are signs of them trying to keep the contact hidden. This weapon dealer, have they been identified? Nothing concrete. The Yakuza might have fallen from back in the day, but the Shai Hassaikai remains a notorious name and their influence goes far and wide. Several of its members are on the rise in the underground and are respected as powerful quirk users. The Shai Hassaikai is also known for its code of conduct. Did they accept the dealing? Not confirmed. Sasuke sighs and leans back into the couch. The fact that Malum is looking at alternative business partners shouldn't be a problem, he says. They tried to hide it, Kurogiri points out, and Sasuke nods. Anything that suggests why? Jiren smirks and holds out a file. The rest is information, he says, and Sasuke holds up an envelope containing a wad of cash without blinking. He tosses it across the table, and Jiren smoothly pockets it before handing over the file in his hand, which contains copies of invoices, audio transcripts, and a USB. Sasuke passes it back to Kurogiri, and Jiren notes that the boy appears uninterested in the case, despite understanding the implications. That's all for today, Kurogiri says, more to him than to the boy, and Sasuke gets to his feet with a sigh. Unlike his teammates, Sasuke cannot claim to have years of leading experience in his pocket. He likes to think that he had too many of his own problems to tackle without having to weigh himself down further with the responsibility of those who followed him, but like with most of the things he likes to think, he knows that a majority of the people who knew him would probably tell him that he was being delusional. So, while he is sure he can take up any role All for One might have ready for him, for now, all he does is wander around after the man as his protege. A part of him is reminded of his time as a student in the academy, where his name alone had people flocking to him. All for One flaunts him like a well-trained pet, and most of the time Sasuke is not bothered enough to care. At the end of the day, he knows for a fact that All for One considers all his followers to be nothing more than expendable pawns. Sasuke is sure he himself is a pawn, just like Kurogiri, but he knows for sure that he is not expendable. A pawn all the same, but he is definitely one of a kind. Besides, if the man decides to get rid of him, well, Sasuke will definitely not take it lying down. If it ever came to that, he would kill the man. He might have grown up a villain, but surely getting rid of the biggest villainous threat to society would warrant him a pass from too severe of a punishment. Then again, perhaps his thought process is a little biased. After all, in his previous life he had literally abandoned his home, gone rogue, could have been called a terrorist at one point, threatened the village leaders, and blown off the arm of the hope of the shinobi forces, all the while committing the lesser ninja crimes, such as killing and kidnapping and infiltrating, and whatever else his kind did, things that made the acts of the villains he saw on the news seem like child's play. There is a knock on his door, and Sasuke stifles a sigh when Kurogiri appears with the files they had received from Jiren tucked under his arm. Shai Hassaikai also appear to be looking into the reason behind Malum's request. Did they accept the dealings though? The first contact attempt was made by Malum, and no traces at all after that. Sasuke narrows his eyes. So deals were agreed upon during the first contact, things broke down, and both sides left it at that, or? Kurogiri nods. The Shai Hassaikai erased the tracks. Sasuke sighs and flops down onto his bed. And? Now what? We have tracked down the latest movements of the weapon-dealing faction of the Shai Hassaikai, which we are also assuming dealt with Malum. Sasuke shoots up. And? He prompts. He is looking at Kurogiri, but he is no longer addressing the man. You are being tasked with tracking them down and figuring out what is going on, All for One says. Recently, he has been spending less and less time in the hideout. A little snooping has let him know that this is partially due to his supposedly worsening physical health. Still, the man's voice comes clearly from the device in Kurogiri's hand. There is amusement in his voice, as though he can sense Sasuke's excitement, but the Uchiha cannot care less. Kurogiri will be going with you. I also have profile folders of men eager to please for you to pick from. And how am I expected to detail with this? That will be left up to you. Sasuke smirks. HN. Chapter 5. Naruto does not look at the school map included in the folder the school had sent him, despite Katsuki telling him many times that he should, and he partially regrets it as he steps through the school gates. It had taken him a while to memorize the layout of his secondary school, and UA is much bigger. He easily recognizes the new year 1 students from their atmosphere alone, some he even recalls being in the same group during the entrance exam, and he follows two boys who appear to know where they are going, because surely the first year classrooms are located in the same place. The two in front of him are Blonde and Raven, and Naruto feels nostalgia well up within him as he follows from a set distance. He is too far to hear what they are saying without the use of chakra, but he is satisfied simply watching. Unlike him and Sasuke, however, they appear to get along very well. Naruto is right, and he soon spies the room labeled 1B in the far distance. The two boys he had been following split at the entrance. The blonde boy cheerily waves goodbye to his raven-haired companion who enters the room labeled 1A before he jogs off the room next down the corridor, and Naruto assumes he and the blonde are classmates. He steps through the classroom door and realizes that he is one of the earliest to arrive, just behind the blonde boy and two other classmates. There is still time before class is officially set to start and everyone appears to be sitting wherever. Naruto slips past the blonde boy who is looking around the classroom and takes a seat at the table located at the very back by the window. The two who had been in the classroom when Naruto and the other blonde had arrived appear to know each other and are locked up in their own circle. Naruto finds he is not bothered, confident in his abilities to make friends after everyone has arrived and settled, and is digging around his bag for something to eat when the blonde from earlier loudly places his bag onto the table in front of him. "Hi. Can I sit here?" Naruto blinks, then grins. Of course. It's not like the tables are mine to Bayo. The blonde settles in his chair before turning around. "I'm Tagada Mirio," he says, from Chiba. Naruto immediately decides he likes the boy. "I'm Bakugo Naruto," he replies. "I'm from Shizuoka." "Oh, the Bakugo Naruto. Record setter of the entrance exams." Naruto holds back his laugh. "I guess so." Mirio laughs. "That's cool. Also, same prefecture. Lucky you." "Yeah. At the very least I get to travel from home." Slowly but surely, the rest of their classmates begin to trickle in. Naruto and Mirio, more similar in personality than he had initially thought, pause in their light conversation to greet the people who take a seat around them. The girl to Naruto's left offers him a cheery wave, and the boy beside Mirio sits on top of his desk and immediately joins their conversation. A while later, once it appears as though everyone is here and has taken their seats, a lanky man enters the classroom. Naruto immediately notices that he is not a student, probably a teacher, because even before the fact that he is not in the standard UA uniform, he is different. His chakra might be as low as the average civilians, but there is something in his atmosphere, in the way he holds himself, that tells him he is levels ahead of everyone else in the room. Apart from him, probably, but Naruto has never been one to brag. The man claps a few times, and when he has everyone's attention he smiles warmly. Instantly, Naruto is reminded of Iruka. "Good morning, everyone. I'm Kawano Inagi, and I'm the homeroom teacher of Class 1B. He begins with a run-through of the course, listing out different classes they will be taking throughout their first year. Once finished, he claps his hands together. "Now, get changed, class, and meet me outside on the fields. We'll be conducting a simple quirk apprehension test. It'll be similar to the one you've no doubt done in middle school, so don't be afraid and give it your all." Naruto follows Mirio, who appears to have done what he had not and memorized the school map. They change in the changing rooms, then make their way towards the fields. "I want to ask what your quirk is," Mirio says, "but I think I'll get to see it soon enough." Naruto grins. "Same for you," he replies. "This is so exciting to Bayo." Inagi is waiting for them in the fields, and he gives a rundown of all the physical activities they will proceed to partake in. "Maybe we can start with a demonstration and see how things go." "Bakugo Naruto." Naruto blinks, then slowly raises his hand. Yeah." His teacher smiles at him and waves him forward. "I hear you set the new record at the entrance exam," he says. "Why don't you demonstrate for us?" All eyes are on him now. Naruto shakes off the attention and grins. "Sure, Tabayo." He accepts the ball held out to him and stands in the circle marked out on the ground. "I just throw it." Inagi nods. "Give it everything you've got." "Everything?" He can feel Kurama stirring within him. "Give him everything, kid." Naruto rolls his shoulder, feels chakra rush through his body in a flare of orange fire and burning foxtails, and he hurls the ball as far as he can. It vanishes from sight, though he isn't sure if it is because of the distance or because it had disintegrated, and turns back to his class to see them all staring with their mouths hanging open. Inagi glances at the screen device in his hand and jots something down onto a clipboard before nodding in approval. "Neat. Now, class, let's get to it." When Mirio had first heard of Naruto, it had been when his best friend Amajiki Tamaki had mentioned the birth of a new school entrance exam record while they had been confirming their own school offers together. Bakugo Naruto, who had gotten an average written test score but had easily doubled the second-place student and their score during the practical exam. Tamaki had been fascinated since both of them more or less had problems with their own quirks, as well as understandably nervous that someone with such skill, who clearly understood their own power and knew how to use it too, would be in the same year as them. Mirio had been interested too, but more than anything he had been wary. After all, he had seen people act like his superiors for less, so he had been unafraid to admit that he had considered the possibility of going up against some massive jerk who had more brawn than brain that took his quirk and his abilities for granted. But Naruto is clearly not like that at all. Bakugo Naruto, who is happy and bright and genuine, who is unafraid to admit he does not know things and is always more than happy to help out with anything, is easily everything Mirio loves to see in a hero. By the lunch break of the first day he has already talked to a majority of the students in the class, and that is mainly because people appear to be drawn to him naturally. Once Inagi dismisses the class for lunch, Mirio is first at Naruto's table. "My childhood friend is in class 1A, he tells the boy. "I'm meeting him for lunch, want to join us?" He wants Tamaki to meet Naruto and know that he is not an asshole like they had imagined. Naruto sweeps everything on his desk into his bag like one might sweep the rubbish off a counter and into a trash bag, and Mirio recalls Naruto's obvious lack of interest in the class material they had covered on their first day so far. He winces. "Sure." Naruto jumps to his feet and flashes him a wide grin. "Lead the way, Tobeo." The two of them make their way towards the canteen. Or, he leads the way to the canteen while Naruto follows because the blonde had sounded almost proud when he'd admitted he had no clue where anything was just yet. Tamaki had saved them a seat and the raven shyly waves at him when their eyes meet. He sees his friend falter a little when Naruto confidently follows him to the table. "Mirio," he says shyly and skittishly glances up at Naruto. "Hello." Mirio turns to Naruto to introduce him to his friend when something in the boy's expression makes him pause. For the first time that day, there is something off about the blonde's smile and he is staring at Tamaki like he had seen a ghost. Tamaki notices too and he is quick to lower his gaze. Whatever it had been, that is enough for Naruto to break free of it. "Hi. I'm Bakugo Naruto. You must be Amajiki Tamaki. Mirio's told me about you, nice to meet you Tobeo." Tamaki reels at the sudden barrage of words, but not in a bad way, and Mirio relaxes as Naruto is quick to coax his nervous, shy friend out of the shell he'd been trying to hide behind. "So, my old school was a bento kind of place. How's a canteen work? Do they have ramen?" UA is a day school, and Naruto catches the train to head home after his last class. He wants to invite Mirio and Tamaki over, but while he has never had to ask for permission before inviting over friends, he has a feeling his mother will not appreciate a lack of warning. So, he asks the two for their current address and promises to have them over soon before he splits ways with them halfway home. He wanders his way home, body more than used to the path by now. "That boy isn't the Uchiha Kurama says, referring to his moment of frozen shock from lunchtime earlier. "I know. They just looked a little alike, so I was surprised for a second." "Did they really?" Naruto thinks back to Tamaki. "Yeah. But he was so polite and shy and in that sense, they can't be any more apart cause most of the time he's a walking trash bag labeled bastard you know." Kurama hums in agreement and Naruto hammers this thought into his mind because it is not fair to anyone if he sees traces of Sasuke and Tamaki. It had just been a momentary thought brought forth by nostalgia and missing his team. Thankfully, the blonde and raven childhood friends do not have a pink-haired friend. Soon, he spots two silhouettes outside his house from streets away and he recognizes Katsuki and Izuku long before either boy notices him. Izuku is crouched on the ground, eyes wide and fascinated as he looks up at Katsuki, who has his arms spread and is excitedly chattering away. He knows what his brother wants and grins at how utterly adorable the boy is. Izuku is sticking with him too, and that is almost as cute. "Katsuki. Izuku-kun." Both boys freeze before Katsuki spins on his heel with a loud "Iniki." While Izuku hastily scrambles to his feet. "How was your first day of school?" Izuku asks politely, nervously, and Naruto pats the boy on the head. "Well. How was it?" Katsuki demands. Naruto affectionately rolls his eyes. He grabs both boys by the arm and body flickers straight into his living room. "Ka-chan, I'm home." Katsuki turns around from where she had been sitting at the counter, bent over a magazine, long used to his random pops in and out of the house. "Welcome home," she says. "How was school?" Naruto grins. "Sorry, Ka-chan," he says, "but I promised to tell Katsuki first." "And Izuku," Katsuki says absent-mindedly, almost automatically and subconsciously, and Naruto has a sudden thought that perhaps he is used to doing so. He suppresses a frown. "And Izuku-kun." Said boy flushes at his name, but Mitsuki good-naturedly shrugs. "Oh I see I guess I'll have to wait for my turn, then." Katsuki struggles out of his grasp and darts up the stairs. "Come on." Naruto body flickers up the stairs, once again Izuku with him, and calls over his shoulder at his brother when he lets out a sound of complaint. Yeah, come on Katsuki. The next day, Naruto arrives right on time. He slips into his chair just as Inagi makes an appearance through the door and he has a bad feeling that he is going to lag behind in his arrival every day. He wonders how long it will take for him to start pulling a Kakashi. Or, maybe he could send a clone. He is confident that as long as it is not any physical training, his clone can handle being him perfectly fine. Still, he has no idea what any of his classmates' quirks are. He had caught glimpses during the quirk apprehension test, but he knows nothing concrete. Though highly unlikely, what if one of them had a quirk that could tell that his clone was not him? If found out, would he be expelled? Naruto personally did not care too much about graduating from the hero school. A hero was not determined by grades and a license as far as he was concerned. However, Katsuki wanted to become a hero, no. If he flunked out of UA, he was sure it would affect his brother in some way. He was not smart enough to figure out how exactly, but he did not want to do that to the boy. Mirio seems to know that he simply does not like learning at a desk. After their first period is done, his friend leans back towards him. We have heroics later today, he tells him. All I know is what I read from the syllabus, but we're out on the field in our hero outfits. That certainly excites him, and Naruto is able to stay awake throughout mathematics. The fourth period comes by, albeit not soon enough, and Naruto once again follows Mirio to the changing rooms, where their outfits are apparently sitting and waiting for them. He will learn the school layout one day. Mirio tells him about the movie he and Tamaki are planning to watch over the weekend and extends an invitation for him to join them. Naruto wonders if he had made any plans, then accepts. The ratings were pretty good, Mirio says. They enter the changing rooms after their classmates and head over to their lockers. I saw that online, Naruto replies. I have a gaming friend, he's a bastard. Anyways, he's watched it and he told me it was very boring, so I've been wanting to check it out. He opens his locker. Honestly though, everything the bastard tells me. Itsuki had told him that a cloak would be rather impractical out on the field, but as long as it was Kurama chakra fireproof, it would be a part of him and thus would not hinder him at all. He had forgotten about this. Mirio glances over at his abrupt silence, but Naruto barely notices that too. He pulls out the cloak and stares because it is just as he had imagined. He changes in relative silence, and Mirio seems to notice something is off because he keeps quiet while he does. His jacket is just as he remembers it and he is impressed because he had given more description of the material than its actual name. Katsuki had helped him track down the color code of the orange he wanted on a computer and everything feels just right. So maybe he had not managed to move on and maybe he is making everything harder for himself. Still, at this point, he is too done to care and it makes him happy, so he will not let anyone complain. It does not matter much if he is being honest, mostly because his hero outfit will be his Nine Tails chakra mode. Still, as he throws on his jacket that is his but is also not, and he feels strange in a good way when he sees his own reflection in the mirror. He ties his headband into place, then throws the last part of his outfit over his shoulders. He looks into the mirror again, and Naruto of the Konohagakure stares back at him, an uncharacteristically sad look in his eyes and the cloak of his dreams flowing over his back. Fate might have fucked him over, and the title Hokage might not hold the weight or importance it did back in his world, but he could still be one in spirit because that was what mattered here. Chapter 6. Ai sends her messages from time to time. Sakura is still not sure what she thinks of smartphones, but she likes that it has a camera that can instantaneously take and send photos. She does not know who invented self is, but whoever did deserves a cookie. Her phone vibrates and she glances down at the screen. Speak of the devil. The boss sends regular updates to her, but she usually receives alerts from Kai first. Perhaps it is because they are the only two children in an organization made up mostly of adults, but the boy appears to enjoy her presence, even if she can tell she annoys him. I heard you're in the area. Drop by. Sakura rolls her eyes at the tone of the text, more order than request, and shoots him a middle finger emoji in reply before sending a time and attaching the location of her favorite family restaurant. Ai leaves her on read, but Sakura tosses her phone elsewhere, so she considers them even. She stretches, notes she has an hour before she has to leave, and turns back to her paperwork. She is back in Yokohama for work, after all, not for a break, and her unit is set to leave the prefecture in 2 days' time for a weaponry exhibition in Ueda. She manages to wrap up early and checks her phone one last time before she prepares to head out. Tenko is accompanying a few of her men with location scouting for a coming deal and will not be back for a while. She walks to the cafe because it is located a mere 5 minutes from the hotel. She recognizes a few men to be of the Shai Hassaikai, though she does know them personally, and sees that Kai is already there and waiting when she enters. Welcome. Table for one. Sakura waves off the waitress with a polite smile. My friend's already here. She plops herself down opposite Kai, who looks up when she sits. Sakura, he says curtly. Sakura inwardly rolls her eyes but indulges him. Kai, she says before she fails at her attempt to keep a straight face and cracks a grin. How have things been? I don't understand why you insist on meeting outdoors. Kai huffs and gestures at the menu. Order. Sakura does not have to look. She waves over a waiter. Mizo ramen, please. Kai makes a face. Refill my cup. Thank you, Sakura adds and shoots Kai a glare. The waiter takes his leave and Sakura turns back to Kai. So? How are things? The boss will be recommending me as an executive during the next meeting, he says plainly. Will you be attending? Sakura and her unit may be away from HQ most of the time, but she knows she says has sway within the Shai Hassaikai. She racks her brain. The one 2 weeks from now. She winces. I'm in Okinawa, she says. There's an auction I'm to attend. I can try and. Kai shakes his head. It's okay, he says. Business is more important. Sakura smiles sympathetically. I'll watch the VOD. Kai huffs. How have things been for you? Sakura shrugs. Good, she says. Nothing interesting. I ate Mexican food for dinner last night. Kai rolls his eyes. He has the decency to wait until the waitress who had brought his cup leaves before he thoroughly whips down the handle. Sakura does not question it, long used to it, and waits for him to take a sip. So, did you call me here because you missed me? Or because you have something to say? Boss has a granddaughter, did you know that? Sakura blinks. Oh, no, I didn't, though I guess it makes sense. I recall he had children. What about this granddaughter? Kai shrugs. Apparently her quirk is similar to mine. He's putting me in charge of her. Sakura chokes on her own breath. What? Kai chucks his hand sanitizer at her. Is it that surprising? You hate children. Boss's orders. Right, Sakura mentally wishes the granddaughter luck dealing with the edgy boy in front of her. Anything else? The couple of rats have been sniffing around at your feet. Sakura hums. When there are rats, there is usually an entire mischief behind them. My feet. Or that of Shai Hassaikai. Yours, and by default, ours. Sakura suppresses the urge to sigh, wondering where Kai had picked up this way of talking. Maybe adults did it or the supposedly cool characters in action movies. All in all, she wished he would just get straight to the point. Still, she indulges him because he is a child in an adult's world and she is an adult in a child's body and she knows better than anyone that he had little to no choice getting up to this point. Compared to everything they'd done up to this point, everything they would come to do in the future, this was as harmless as could be. They fall into a natural silence when a waiter comes by again, this time with Sakura's orders. She purposefully slurps the soup. Kai makes a face. Some men underground appear to be snooping around. Sakura hums. Anything I can work with? Honestly, I'm telling you because I heard about it in passing, cause what kind of people apart from those lacking any sense of dignity would name themselves the League of Villains. It takes a while for Tenko to give a name to what exactly he has gotten himself into, but at that point, he is no longer surprised. Why do you do this if you know it's illegal? Tenko asks. The Yakuza. Sakura spins her phone in her hand. I wonder, she murmurs. The biggest reason is that I wasn't given much choice. I was born into this world and things were decided for me before I was old enough to decide on my own. She places her phone in her pocket then climbs up onto the couch next to him. I don't know the time when the Yakuza ruled the underworld, she says. My parents died a few years ago. An accident, they said, but I doubt anyone believed that. I was taken in by the boss when I was 5 and given this job when I was 10. I've been at it ever since. Tenko's mind whirls. Yakuza. Sakura pats him on the back of his shoulder. Of course, you don't have to be a part of it, she says. It might be difficult for you to be completely separate from it, but if you wish it I can allow you to attend school and move out when you're old enough to do so. What do you do? Sakura smiles wryly. The Shai Hassaikai might be a renowned group, but we mostly act as a separate unit, she says. I deal mostly with weaponry. She glances at the clock hanging on the wall and links her hands in front of herself. There are plenty of Yakuza who aren't happy with how things turned out. The name of Yakuza once struck fear in the hearts of those who heard it, but with the establishment of heroes and villains, the Yakuza were classified as the latter without much fair judgment and were suddenly at the mercy of the law and the justice the title hero brought. Now, only a few of us are left and most are barely shells of their former selves. We survive because most of our earnings came from weapon dealing, and as long as we deal with the correct form of weaponry, we will always have a place in this world. Sakura glances around then leans in. I personally don't mind, she says quietly. The Hassaikai is the only family I know and we just happen to belong in the world of organized crime. I do what I do because people depend on me, and despite everything, our name is a kind of protection one can't find elsewhere. I know what I'm doing and I'm rather good at it. There is a knock, and a man called Jester drops off some forms. Most of Sakura's companions went by aliases, usually the names of their quirks or something similarly related, he notes. Sakura always introduced herself as Sakura, without any mention of a surname. Should I change my name? He asks offhandedly. That's what villains did in TV shows, right? That's completely up to you, Sakura replies, tone serious to a question he had meant as a joke, but not necessary. You don't have to force yourself to give up what little of your family you have left. Tenko nods. I don't think I want to forget, he finally says. Maybe I shouldn't. Sakura looks surprised for a moment, but her expression soon blooms into a bright smile. That's the brave way of going about this, she says quietly. In that case, naming yourself after what changed you is a good reminder, I think. I'll think about it. Take your time, Sakura says. There is a knock on the door and the Pincat slowly sits back. Yes. The car will be here soon, princess. I'll be there in a second. Sakura gets to her feet and smiles. Also, this is rather fun. She certainly seems like she is having fun. Tenko smiles a little as he watches the girl flit around the room fixing her appearance. She grabs her coat and throws it over herself. I'll be back later, she says. If things go well, let's go eat yakiniku. Caring for a child, Sakura comes to learn, is not simple. Tenko is probably not the most annoying kid she's been around. She remembers Naruto as a kid and knows she herself was rather cringeworthy. In fact, he is probably one of the most quiet, sensible children she has met in a while. Still, there is something about them that makes her warier than she probably has to be. The threat level of a person is partially the abilities they possess, but mostly it depends on who utilizes it and how they make use of it. Tenko's quirk might be terrifyingly strong, but she thinks he is a traumatized child scared of his own ability. Sakura might be a young girl with pink hair and wide green eyes, but she was raised to be a killer, despite how long it took her to realize the true weight of what that meant and has fought in a war before. If it comes down to it, she can kill the boy with her bare hands. She will not, of course, but the understanding that she can, the fact that she is probably leaps and bounds ahead of most of the people who exist in this world, makes her slightly wary of herself. She has no intention of interfering in the runnings of this world, after all. Tenko is a quiet child. She has no way of really knowing what it'd been like before he had lost his family and joined a gang, but she has a feeling he was rather quiet to begin with. If anything, the signs of beatings littered around his body allow her to speculate. She recognizes signs of abuse the first time she gives his body a proper scan over. Her intention had been to see if his quirk had negative effects on his body, seeing as how damaging it was to the things around him, and she frowns when she comes across a healed fracture. There are no signs of medical healing, though luckily it appears to have mended well, and she mentally notes it before moving on, only to catch signs of a bruising, rather recent, littering his upper arm. The damage extends to the bone, which is also bruised, and she easily recognizes the signs of a grown man's hand, tightly gripping the arm of a young child. She deduces that this is an old injury from before he had joined the gang, because she is certain Tenko would not have tolerated anyone hurting him if he had the means to stop it. She knows the boy had lost his family and wonders if the manifestation of his quirk was in self-defense. Tenko seems content not to speak of it and Sakura does not ask. She knows enough without having to, and he appears to have recovered rather well from the physical beatings. She buys him a gaming console and 3 of the most popular games of the time for his birthday. A salesman warns her clone, who is under a hinge and pretending to be her parent, about letting children play shooting games, and the cynical side of Sakura wants to tell the man that she and Tenko, and everyone else living under the same roof, have killed people, and that shooting humans on a screen would be a much better alternative. Tenko. Tenko looks up at his name and notes that Sakura is dressed in a casual shirt and shorts. Are you going out? I was thinking maybe a short break, Sakura tells him. She has been stuck indoors for a while, he knows. Want to come? Tenko nods, not seeing anything else for him to do. He has finished his latest run of this game, but he does not want to ask Sakura to buy him another game. She will if he asks, he thinks, but that thought alone is enough for him to feel uncomfortable asking. Regardless, he is ready to take a break and an outing sounds nice. Great. Sakura jumps to her feet and grabs her phone. I want a car to pick up me and Tenko from the front gates at 3. What? No. No. Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you. She cuts the call and shoves it into her pocket. Go get changed, she tells him. I'll be here. Tenko hurries to his room to do just that. He changes into a casual shirt and pants, then throws a hoodie over because the feeling of being enveloped in soft material feels comfortable. Sakura is standing exactly where she had been before and she holds out her hand as he approaches. He takes it and lets her tug him towards the door. There's a mall near the station, she tells him. Want to visit it? Tenko nods. Can we arcade? Sakura huffs. Not for too long. She is amazingly good at the games there, perhaps he can ask her to win him something. Okay. Their trip to the mall starts off nicely. They visit the bookstore, where they point out random locations to one another and note down the gangs and whatnots located there in the tour book section. She notes Tenko's lingering gaze on the game store and wins him an All Might figure and a large bag of chips from a claw machine which they sit and eat at the food court. They are on the escalators down, just about to leave, when the ground begins to shake and the screaming starts. Tenko goes stiff beside her. What is that? Sakura didn't have a clue, but she can make a guess. People around her are screaming and running from the northern side of the mall. If she strains her ears, she can hear the distinct sound of things being crushed. It's a villain. A woman screams from nearby. It's a villain, Sakura agrees with a grimace. Come on, Tenko, we should get out of the way. Tenko nods sharply. They are in a relatively unoccupied area of the ground floor and she begins leading the boy towards the nearest exit. A second tremor shakes the ground. Sakura cannot even finish the curse that is at the tip of her tongue when the floor gives way. Tenko lets out a sharp cry of surprise and Sakura tucks the boy into her arms as they fall to the floor. She lands neatly on her feet and freezes. The barrel of a gun stares right back at her and its owner blinks in surprise at what she can only assume is her appearance. Thought you were a hero or student or something when you landed on your feet, but you're just a kid. Tenko is shaking in her arms, she can feel it and she is sure that it is not completely out of fear. She subtly grasps his wrist to stop him from lashing out. No matter, another man snaps. They'll work as hostages. It is only her and Tenko here. As far as she can see there were 3 villains, 2 men and a woman. From the way the car park is destroyed and the sea of debris surrounds them, cameras should not be functioning. Tenko lets out a snarl when the woman grabs him by the arm and tries to drag him away from her. Sakura sees him twist, ready to rip off his glove, and lets out a sharp "Don't." Listen, the woman says, incorrectly assuming Sakura had been talking to her, and you won't get hurt. Tenko, Sakura calls softly. Keep your head down for a moment, okay? Tenko eyes her before he nods. Brat. Sakura whirls around on her heel, grabbing the hand of the man who had been reaching for her. She crushes it in her grip, then pulls him harshly down towards herself when he instinctively tries to pull away with a scream of pain and slams him face first into the ground with a chakra-empowered hand. There are shouts of alarm from behind and she flashes through hand signs for a substitution technique which places her right behind the woman holding Tenko. She slices cleanly through her throat with a chakra scalpel and she collapses without so much as a gasp. Tenko begins raising his head and Sakura plants a hand in his hair, keeping it down. A little more. The man standing across from them has a gun in his hand and his other is much bigger and muscled than she remembers. A quirk, perhaps. You brat. Sakura sees the twitch in his arm and throws herself over Tenko, pushing them both onto the ground. A bullet whizzes over their heads. Sakura grabs a chunk of concrete and throws it at the man who appears to instinctively swipe his mutated left hand at the projectile, knocking it aside. A split second of focus shift is all she needs, though, and she hurls herself at the man. She ducks beneath his mutant arm as he moves to grab her and goes for a punch. It has been a while since she had fought like this, and she overreaches. The man staggers through the shock that comes with her swung fist, but since her blow did not land he recovers while she herself is thrown off balance. The mutant hand grabs her by the upper arm and yanks her upwards. A second hand, now also mutated, grabs her around the throat and squeezes. Sakura grits her teeth and grabs onto the limbs attempting to suffocate her, but before she can yank them off of herself the man lets go on his own. A scream of sheer agony is torn from his throat and Sakura lands on her feet, a healing hand around her neck and eyes wide as the man collapses onto his knees. Tenko stands behind him, an ungloved left hand raised and shoulders tense. Sakura launches herself upwards with her hands, kicking the villain's head upwards and wrapping her legs around his neck. She swings her weight with all her might and slams him headfirst into the ground. There is a loud crack. He does not get up. Sakura. Tenko says urgently. He hurries over to her side then hovers there uncertainly, as though unsure of what to do. He had rushed in to help her. Her chest feels tight and she hurries over to his side. Tenko, are you hurt? Tenko shakes his head as he blindly reaches out towards her. Sakura allows him to tilt her head up as he inspects her neck. When his left hand comes up, however, she gently grasps his wrist to stop him. My abilities don't keep my clothes from decaying, she says gently. Tenko tenses and yanks his hand out of her grasp. It's okay, she continues good-naturedly. Thanks for helping me. The boy flushes and he looks down at his feet. He was choking you. He tilts his head to look past her and at the limp body of the villain. Is he dead? Sakura keeps a careful eye on Tenko's face as she nods, trying to gauge his reaction. We won't be caught. She nods a second time, this time a little more carefully. We should be fine, she says. Our quirks aren't registered so it'll be difficult to track us, and I doubt they'll be looking for children our age straight off the bat. She looks around them, properly for the first time. Still, we should leave. Tenko hesitates. I can decay them. Sakura recalls Tenko telling her that had been his main job back when he had been a part of his previous gang. He is used to it, it appears, but something in Sakura still feels a little sick asking him to do it. She forces down the feeling and nods. Okay, she says, and the boy moves forward to do just that. They find Tenko's left glove, which he had ripped off his hand in a panic when he rushed in to try and help her, and deem it reusable for the duration of their trip back home. Their surroundings are completely caved in on them, so Sakura hefts Tenko onto her back and jumps back up onto the floor they had been on before. They hurry through the mall until they find a sea of customers still rushing to escape, and no one takes much notice of two children as they melt into the crowd. Hours later, Sakura and Tenko find themselves back in their shared hotel room. Sakura is positive they hadn't left any traceable tracks at the mall, but she shoots Kai a message to let him know just in case, and he agrees to have someone check. I'll stay, Tenko says, and Sakura looks up. Yeah? She says slowly, trying not to rush him. I want to stay here. Are you sure? Tenko nods. And my name, I'll change it. My quirk changed me, I'm no longer the boy I was before it manifested. He swallows thickly. I killed my family, he breathes, and I was picked up by that gang when I had nowhere to go. Sakura has done a little research and knows of the sudden disintegration of a neighborhood located in Shiga Prefecture. She has suspected Tenko is the one who caused it, but she does not say anything. Shigaraki, for the place that used to be my home. He chokes, as though the words are now stuck in his throat, but he manages to force them out. Tamura, for the mourning of those that used to be my family, for the person who used to be me. You don't have to force yourself to give up what little of your family you have left, she had told him a few days ago. Still, this might be much, much worse. The first thing Sakura thinks is don't do this to yourself because the boy is chaining himself down to his past and she knows how damaging that can be. The second is pain, because he is still merely a child and he understands so well how death is not only physical and also anger because society had forced such a young boy to accept his own death in order to keep on living. But, is it fair for her to consider him a child still? Sakura reaches out and gently grasps his hand. He flinches but relaxes a second later. Tenko, Tamura, grips her hand tightly. That's a good name, she says softly. Welcome to Shihei Seikai, Shigaraki Tamura. Chapter 7. It had been 10 years, more or less, since Sasuke had first landed in this world. In his mind, his past life was still his life, while this second run was the alternate world. However, at this point, he has a feeling that such differentiation was more out of practicality rather than because he truly feels so. Of course, his life as a shinobi would always be the life of Uchiha Sasuke, but sooner or later he would have lived here longer than he had in the world of shinobi. That thought makes his chest feel heavy. Still, there is plenty to remind him of his past life, and he wonders if it will be easier if he could just forget it all. Once, All For One had suggested Sasuke call him sensei honestly, it had been more along the lines of you may call me sensei if you want, in a tone that made Sasuke suspect that man had most certainly expected to be called just that thereafter. Sasuke had not called him sensei because he had never in his life called anyone sensei, and while a new life might warrant a new set of life rules, he is not about to start breaking tradition anytime soon. All For One never brings it up again, and for that Sasuke is grateful because a one-time reminder can be dismissed as something he had forgotten, but if he is told twice or 3 times. There is no way All For One will accept that it had just slipped his mind. Sasuke is smart after all, and he has, so far, let everyone know it. Still, despite All For One prompting him to take initiative, come to his own conclusions and make his own decisions regarding his current task, Sasuke knows that the outcome is not important at all. He knows because had he been in the man's position, he would have done the same. While they had dealings in the past, their contracts had mainly stemmed from a tentative alliance where Malum could act under the banner of All For One's name and the protection that came within the underworld, while in return they would join All For One's cause, should the need arise. It was a simple sort of deal that tied them to many different organizations. After All For One is to the villains what All Might is to the heroes, and many are more than willing to serve him, and Sasuke does not think there are any loyalty problems because he cannot imagine anyone stupid enough to idolize All For One, seeing any sort of benefit with allying with Yakuza. The main issue lies in the fact that Malum had, up to this point, purchased weapons from another organization affiliated with them. It could be something as simple as Shihei Seikai sold ammunition for a cheaper price, which is something Sasuke can understand from a practical viewpoint. Trying to hide the switch can be understandable too, with the proper reasons. This country has a rather strange relationship with Yakuza. Their code of honor allows them to remain quasi-legal, apparently, and that, in turn, keeps the police forces from coming after them. Or something. Honestly, Sasuke does not understand it very well. Still, it makes sense for Malum to want to hide their interactions with a group that is not necessarily an ally, and he has a feeling that as long as they remain loyal and come when called, All For One does not care about the truth either way, which is probably the main reason Sasuke had been handed this task in the first place. The smart Jounin part of his brain understands that, because he cannot imagine handing a child, no matter how smart they appeared, a massive task. The part of him that had run off with an evil snake man and had thought waltzing back to Konoha after everything he had done was a good idea, however, was upset at the unfairness of it all. To be fair, he could argue that it had been a good idea because his team had been happy and he had been happy and no one had died. Or, no one who mattered had died. Still, what is the point of this all? Is it a teaching method? Sasuke is not too sure, because regardless of his obvious disregard for Kakashi back when he had been a genin, he is sure the man had been a shit teacher. His next teacher figure, Orochimaru, was most possibly worse. Long story short, he had no one he could compare to. Sasuke's eyes. He has a bad feeling. Had he gotten too excited before he had even confirmed there would be a fight? The outcome he wishes for that he is sure lies somewhere between maybe possible and kind of reasonable, is one where the whole thing is actually the Yakuza pulling the strings and he is then sent in to annihilate them. The absolute best scenario is one where somehow All Might is the reason and he is sent to fight him. Either way, until anyone other than Malum was proven to be actually involved, Sasuke and his investigation would mainly be based around the gang stationed in Aomori. Deep down, Sasuke knows that neither is likely, but a boy can dream. Honestly, when is he going to be sent out onto the battlefield? At this point, he does not care who he fights. If his training partner for later that day leaves the room with more injuries than usual, well, he would blame All For One. Sasuke may be a villain, but that is more a circumstance than it is who he is. Or, so he likes to think. That is why, when he sees a young boy being accosted near the gates of an abandoned park, his first thought is to tell the offenders to scram. If he were to be specific, the boy is a teenager, but to him, who has lived 2 lives and has technically been an adult since he had been 12 in his first life, everybody younger than his mental age is a child. He is a little too far to hear what is being said without the aid of chakra, and he has no idea what the topic can be to make 3 grown adults attempt to threaten a teenage boy. He is still wondering if he should step in when the boy suddenly reaches out and grabs the man looming over him by the face. Or, he thought he had, but in the next second the man lets out a scream that is abruptly cut short as his face disintegrates. His body is quick to follow, and the boy claps his hands together as though he had swept dirt off some surface. The look in his eyes is bored, as though what he had done is equivalent to just that. The dusted man's friend, who had vines growing out of his back, lets out a cry of fear and rage and shoots plant projectiles at him, but Sasuke watches him weave past a thorn shot at him to nimbly close the distance before grabbing him, too, by the face. There is a scream before another body turns to dust. Close-range fighters are at a disadvantage until they can close distance between them and a longer-ranged opponent. The boy, barely older than him, had moved almost like a shinobi in how sure and swiftly he had closed in, despite the barrage of long-ranged attacks. The third attacker makes a run for it, but all it takes is a casual slap on the back for him to burst into bits, clothes and all. The boy glances around, and Sasuke notes that it must be useful, not having to clean up the dead bodies. There was literally nothing left to suggest the 3 men had ever been here. He pulls out a pair of gloves from his back pocket and tugs them on in a way that makes Sasuke pause. Sakura had worn her gloves like that, had she not? She might have done so before blowing something up, while the boy appears to be wearing them after the destroying, as though to suppress his powers, but the way he tugged them on and the way he flexed his fingers afterwards is so nostalgic that he feels himself taking a step forward before he even notices he had done so. The boy spins on his heel, eyes wide. He smooths out his expression, however, as soon as their eyes meet. Good evening. Polite. So they are going to pretend that the murder had not happened. Maybe the boy did not know he had seen. Then again, he is sure that a normal child his age would have screamed and run off, so he can understand the boy thinking so. He decides to go with it. Good evening, he replies. He glances pointedly around the abandoned park. Nice place for a walk. The boy huffs in what he thinks is amusement. There are no people here, of course it's a nice place to be. Because you killed them. The boy glances down at his phone and frowns. Sasuke sees a keychain hanging from a strap. He notices because it is a character from a game he plays. Isn't it a little late for you to be wandering around? The boy asks. Sasuke glances at his own phone screen. 7. Children like you should have a bedtime. The boy pointedly turns away, but Sasuke has been out of entertainment for so long that he is willing to bite. Besides, this is Yokohama and as far as he knows, there are a limited number of places children with dangerous quirks can be raised to kill in a society like Japan. Was this part of a Yakuza territorial war? You barely look older than me, he says nonchalantly and pointedly follows. The boy grits his teeth in what he is sure is annoyance. He is trying to chase him off. Sasuke wonders what he had seen on his screen. The air behind him shits and Sasuke carefully keeps his eyes ahead of him. The boy in front of him shows no signs of noticing anything. Sometimes, Sasuke forgets that these people do not have even the faintest ability to detect chakra and because he can sense chakra, he does not have the faintest idea if people here can detect presences and the likes. Fire rears to life in his chest and he is ready to greet the newcomer with a face full of flames when the boy whips out a gun from the front pocket of his hoodie and lets a bullet fly in one smooth practiced motion. Sasuke watches it shoot right past him, just barely not grazing his cheek and hit the woman that had appeared behind him cleanly between the eyes. The sound is muted, a silencer equipped at the end of what he suspects is a Glock. Did children run around armed with guns these days? Then, a more appropriate thought enters his mind. Did the boy just kill some random person? Then, okay, to be honest, his first thought had been to light them on fire too. It just happened that the boy had gotten to her first. The boy now has the gun fixed on him and there is a look of unease in his eyes as though the shooting had been purely on instinct. Finally, Sasuke decides on what to say. Might want to get rid of the body before the blood seeps into the ground, he says lightly. Unless you can dust liquid. The boy lowers his hand and does as he had suggested. Sasuke watches the disintegration spread from the point of contact until there is nothing left. Was that your quirk? The boy gets to his feet, eyes wary and shoulders stiff. Yes, he says. He hesitates, then asks, doesn't it scare you? Sasuke shrugs. If the boy is running around with a gun in his pocket and committing murders without a blink of an eye, surely he is caught up in something dark and evil. Perhaps he, too, is a member of a villain organization. Ooh, a fellow. Still, if he had been in his place, he would not have said anything at all about his powers, just to be safe. In that sense, the boy is clearly still a child. It'll take more than that to kill me, he says simply, a fact more than sheer confidence. Shouldn't we be getting out of here? The boy stares at him for a long moment before he appears to shake off whatever thought had clouded his mind. He looks around, eyes landing on a security camera located near a lamppost. Maybe you should, he replies. He is used to killing, if his composure is anything to go by. He is confident where he is and appears to know the area well, too, enough that Sasuke suspects that the kills from earlier had been planned. He thinks back to his previous thought. Yakuza, huh? If he correctly recalled, this particular area was owned by Shai Hasekai. The Yakuza he had been looking into. He had not expected one of its members to appear right in front of him. He was a child, however, would he have any relevant information? The boy raises his gun again, but there is a lack of intent in his eyes. Still, Sasuke turns his eyes red as a warning and the boy, smartly, freezes. He stays rooted to his spot, wary of his eyes and of not knowing what the change in color signifies. Not gonna shoot. He challenges. He knows he can dodge bullets with his Sharingan, but killing a child still leaves a bad taste in his mouth. Victims of circumstances, he would know all about that. He had spent way too much time with Naruto. The only other person who wasn't scared of this quirk turned out to be a rather nice person, the boy says dismissively. He hesitates. And you're a kid. That's probably the main reason. He tries to recall if the adults the boy had murdered had any form of trademark. Perhaps they were of a rival gang. So are you, he retorts. The boy in front of him appears to not have the wittiest mind because he bites his bottom lip in annoyance and simply glares. At least he does not resort to childish name-calling, though that might have something to do with the fact that they are in a rather peculiar situation, being a murderer and a witness. The boy's phone lets out a sound again and he keeps an eye on him while he quickly glances over the screen. Sasuke wishes it had been a call so that he could listen in, but he waits while he sorts out whatever it is by shooting a quick reply. This is Shai Hasekai territory, the boy tells him. His voice lacks any form of pride or haughtiness that would suggest loyalty to the name, and Sasuke notes this down in his mind. This entire area is currently being monitored by its members. I suggest you leave before my ride arrives. Should you really be announcing that to the world? Sasuke asks. Security cameras in the area are all under our control, and any additional data is being erased or adjusted as we speak. Sasuke notes that the kills had, in fact, been planned. The boy tucks his gun away back into his hoodie pocket. If anyone asks, I'm a troubled, edgy teenager pretending to be more than I am. Sasuke cannot help but chuckle. He holds up his own phone. Give me your number, he says. The boy blinks before looking horrified. Sasuke snorts and pushes on. I'm someone you'd want on your contact list, he promises. He will not reveal his own affiliations just yet, but he will if it makes his life more interesting. He gestures to the keychain. Or, we can just game. The boy glances down at the chibi figure accessory. We can game, he finally agrees, but there is a smirk tugging at his lips. Sasuke rattles off his number, then tells him to add him on a messaging app because he may be changing phone numbers often. The boy agrees easily enough, probably because he understands and is in the same situation. What name should I put you under? The boy asks, and Sasuke remembers that they have not yet told each other their own names. A funny thought enters his mind. When he can afford to, All For One makes sure to personally check in on Sasuke, though it is quite obviously not to make sure the boy is alive. Sasuke is difficult to understand, and Kurogiri is sure All For One wants to attempt to read him every once in a while. If he were being honest, despite the years they have spent together, he trusts Sasuke as much as he would a random stranger on the street. He trusts in the boy's abilities and his control over his quirk, which he still does not know for sure what exactly it is, but Sasuke as a person is the most unchildlike child he has ever met. On that particular day, Sasuke had wandered off earlier after promising to return by the evening, when All For One had announced he would come by. Sasuke is usually on time for everything, though that appears to be more out of a desire to avoid troublesome situations, more than any form of moral rule, and he had been told of All For One's arrival a week in advance, which is why Kurogiri feels a little worried when 6 arrives and Sasuke has not returned. He said he would return by now, Kurogiri tells the man when he arrives to a Sasuke-less hideout. Shall I call him? He is told not to, and so they wait for him to return instead. An hour later, Sasuke steps through the door like nothing is wrong, takeout hanging from his arm and eyes on his phone. He appears to send a text before he slips his phone back into his pocket and dumps his dinner on the table. HN. We had a meeting scheduled, All For One says patiently. Sasuke shrugs as he sits on the couch and takes out the food. For someone who claims to hate ramen, he sure did eat a lot of it. Got sidetracked, he says unapologetically. Saw a kid kill a bunch of guys. All For One hums. Oh. 3 quirk kills, then a bullet between the eyes for another. Sasuke sounds almost disturbingly pleased for a boy of 14 who had apparently witnessed a murder. He loudly slurps his soup, and Kurogiri wonders if he is even chewing properly. Apparently, the quirk is called decay. Kurogiri sees All For One freeze. Looked useful. You could clean up dead bodies really nicely. Decay? The man prompts, voice icily calm, did you get to see what it did? Sasuke nodded and he looked up, eyes narrowed. From what I could see, anything touched with 5 fingers turned to dust. What is this boy's name? All For One demands. In the same second, Kurogiri puts it together as well. Shimura's grandson. Decay would match the description of the aftermath of the missing boy's home back in Shiga. He is sure a quirk that can turn things to dust at a touch is rare at best. I never said it was a boy, Sasuke replies calmly. He makes a face as he finishes the last of his soup. Kurogiri has a feeling All For One is starting to get annoyed and steps in. We may know this boy you met, he tells him. Sasuke sighs. I didn't get his name, he says after a while. He seems to consider something for a second before he dismisses it. Why would I ask some random kid his name? A reasonable question, but it appears that notice of the Shimura boy alone is enough to placate All For One for now. Kurogiri, he says, have Jiren contacted? Kurogiri, already knowing what exactly for, dips his head. Understood. Sasuke glances between the two of them before he shrugs to himself again and turns to his second bowl of ramen. So perhaps his new gaming companion is more than he had initially thought. Sasuke glances at the contact information of the boy, now dubbed Deathly Hands, before he tosses his phone onto his bed. He had checked the security of mobile devices the moment he had heard what they were for and what they did, and he made sure to purchase his own phones to use alongside the one supplied to him by All For One. He had done his own research, but he is not yet confident in his ability to notice if the devices given to him had been tampered with. If All For One is looking for Deathly Hands, he supposes it had been a good idea to note him down on a private phone. Did that mean All For One would launch an invasion against the Yakuza to get his hands on the boy? Sasuke recalls the talks of a missing grandson he had heard a couple of times during his early days. From the way the talks died down as his own training progressed, it appears as though the role he currently plays as All For One's successor had initially been Deathly Hands, not that the boy knew that. Sasuke might think he had saved a boy from a sad fate, but considering the fact that he had been killing people in an abandoned park and had ties to the Yakuza, perhaps he had ended up somewhere sad anyways. He considers inviting the boy to a game night with him on RAMENLOVER7, but then decides to hold off for the night. He would have to look into this as well, and since he had long lost interest in the Amori gang case, this new situation being much more interesting in his opinion, he would have a lot of time on his hands. Chapter 8. One day, Naruto wakes up late. His mother complains about him dashing around the house as he grabs his things. He shoots Mirio a message. Naruto. PLS open the window next to my seat. Mirio. Sure. You're late, are you okay? Naruto. I'm great. I'm on my way. Before he's running out of the house as fast as he can. He arrives at school in record time and spies the open window to his classroom from across the courtyard. Ready, aim, fire. Kurama shoots him off the ground and Naruto latches onto the windowsill with chakra. He hears shouts of surprise and neatly flips himself into the room and grins awkwardly when everyone turns to look at him. Inagi blinks at him. Nice of you to join us, Bakugo. Naruto laughs. So you see, there was this old lady who needed help. Your bedhead and the drool still clinging to your cheek says otherwise. The class laughs and Naruto quickly rubs at his face. Okay, fine, you got me. I got lost on the path of life. He considers his answer. But that road of life was in my sleep, you see. The Nagi lightly scolds him for lying and being late, which is not a good example to set as the class representative. That is the day Naruto learns that someone somewhere had made him class representative. Whatever that is. What's that? He asks Kurama. Don't ask me, shouldn't you know? How am I supposed to know? Because you're the class representative. And what's that? Obviously, it's the representative of the class. And what does the class representative do? Use your brain for once, kid. Obviously, they represent the class. Represent the class where? How am I supposed to know? I'm a fox. They study the Heroes Foundation class under a different teacher every week. Sometimes, they have pro heroes come in to hold activities and other times it's the teachers, all who have their own share of pro hero field experience, that lead the class. They cover a wide variety of things, from simple lectures to situation simulations to training in single, pair, and group combat. Through this, Naruto gets to know his classmates more. Naruto's favorite type of lesson is definitely situation simulation because it is there he can see how the people around him will react to certain situations and also allows him to entertain his own thoughts regarding how he, himself, would react. Was his reaction affected by the fact that it was training? Or would he act the exact same in a real situation? Back in Konoha, Naruto had never had the time to dislike his classmates. Sure, he claimed to dislike Sasuke a lot, but at the root of it all, he had never really truly hated anyone. This time around, as an adult stuck in a child's body, he feels as though he does not have the right to judge his fellow classmates based on their actions because he is clearly more experienced. Regardless, there are a few classmates he does not like simply because of their personalities. They had been partaking in a rescue simulation that day. The teacher in charge had put them in pairs before each pair was assigned either hero or villain. Then, the heroes had been tasked with entering a collapsed building to rescue a handful of civilians while capturing the villains. Naruto had been thinking over the fight that had just occurred on the screen. One of the heroes had been Mirio, and he and his partner had, unfortunately, failed to capture the villains. What makes you think you can be a hero? Naruto turns at the words, frown on his face, and sees Mirio standing up to Ken, his partner, a classmate with a lycanthropy quirk. A few of the others are gathered around, looking unsure and not stepping in. Just yet, he wants to think, because he wants to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, but he feels like everyone will be just fine watching the fight unfold. He makes his way over. If you hadn't gone for that civilian, we'd have caught the villain. Mirio holds his ground. So you wanted to abandon the civilian to catch the villain. What if they'd gotten hurt? What? The civilians are just dolls. They can't get hurt. Ken throws his hands up in the air. Why was I paired with this useless guy? Mirio narrows his eyes but, probably not wanting to cause a scene, does not retaliate. Naruto has simply seen too much in life to care about school authorities or class social rules. He instantly decides that he does not like the other boy and so he does. Would you have left the civilian to die in a real-life situation? He asks. Of course not. Inagi-sensei said to pretend like we're in a real-life situation. Ken has kind of been the class bully since the term had started and as expected he takes a threatening step towards him. Naruto is not scared. He finds it hilarious, almost, because it has been a long while since he had last been able to afford to be scared and he runs his chakra through himself in retaliation. Kurama burns into existence from beneath his skin and orange fire whips around him as though alive. Ken steps back in alarm and his classmates let out cries of surprise. Sorry, he says, grinning and absolutely not sorry at all. My fox doesn't like people trying to threaten us. His nine tails flare as though to acknowledge his words, though that is all him and not Kurama whatsoever, before he deactivates the chakra mode and calmly pats his clothes down. Your fox also does not like it being told he said something he didn't, Kurama says haughtily, but he does not sound annoyed at all. Oh hush, Naruto replies with a grin. You like being dramatic. Don't pretend you don't. Naruto and his partner, a boy who timidly introduced himself on the first day as Nogi, soon find themselves outside the collapsed building as their turn arrives. Their quirk is clairvoyance. Naruto prompts, and the boy hesitantly nods. Yeah, he replies. So I'm afraid I'm not the most useful when it comes to combat. Naruto grins and gives his teammate a pat on the back. No worries, I got the combat part to Bayo. Nogi smiles back shyly, and the moment Inagi calls for them to start, he holds his hands up like a child might to mimic a pair of binoculars. The civilians are located in 2 groups, he reports. Both on the ground floor, 2 people near the far north and another 3 right by the entrance. Naruto rolls this around in his head. And the villains? They're on the 3rd floor. They're staying together for now. Nogi lowers his hands. So who should we go for? Naruto stretches. Go for who what? Nogi cracks a small grin. The civilians. Or the villains. I guess we could rescue the civilians first, then chase the villains. Nope. Naruto holds up a hand sign. We're gonna go for all of them at the same time. Mirio stares when 2 copies of Naruto appear in puffs of smoke. Nogi appears just as shocked, but Naruto pays him no real mind as he turns towards his copies. You know where the civilians are, he says. Go get them out. We definitely do, boss, one of them replies. Leave it to me, Bayo, says the other. Naruto finger salutes them with a grin before he grabs his teammate by the wrist, and they are suddenly gone as though they had just teleported. The 2 clones glance at each other, then one of them also vanishes while the one left behind heads straight into the building. The classmate points at another screen. There. Mirio turns to the camera showing a scene inside the building and sees one of the Narutos, no Nogi with him, so it must be one of his copies, crouched by the debris pile collapsed on top of 2 of the civilian dolls. A quick glance at another screen shows the other copy with the 3 dolls deeper into the building. Finally, he turns to the screen where the villains had started and sees Naruto standing in a casual stance, grinning, before their 2 classmates. Nogi stands behind his blonde teammate, looking nervous, but Naruto simply pulls out the handcuffs they had been given. So, the easy way would be for you to just surrender, he says. Sorry, not happening, says Shu, a classmate with a mass alteration quirk. Did you just abandon the civilians, asks Shishi, in disbelief. Or do you think you can defeat us quickly enough to go back for them? Naruto simply grins, and suddenly, accompanied by a large explosion, the ground beneath them shakes. Mirio's eyes snap back to Naruto's copies to see one of them barely visible due to the amount of dust and smoke in the air. The other copy, on his screen, shakes his head. What a dope, he says before his entire body begins to glow a fiery orange, just like earlier when Ken had stepped up to him. Then, he simply reaches down to the largest chunk of concrete and lifts it like it weighs nothing, then blows away the rest of the debris on top of the civilian dolls. Both copies reappear outside the building, the civilian dolls tucked beneath their arms before they high-five and simultaneously vanish in twin puffs of smoke. Minion 1 and 2 have rescued the civilians. The only Naruto left, the original, releases Nogi from where he had grabbed the boy to stabilize him. The 2 villain classmates are staring wide-eyed, not knowing what is exactly going on. Now, all that's left is capturing the villains. Naruto gives his classmate some time to process everything. Shishi snaps out of it first. He claps his hands together and his eyes begin glowing as he turns to glare at him. Naruto feels a tingle in his arms. That kid's power, do you remember it? I think he can control people's bodies. Like that creepy shirtless guy from Akatsuki. Not that he's creepy. Kurama huffs. Sounds about right, cause he's trying. Seems like he establishes a bond through eye contact and he's in our head right now. Should I chase him out? Sure. Just don't be too harsh, yeah. Naruto feels chakra lash out from within him and Shishi is sent flying. He quickly makes his way to the other side of the room to catch him so that the boy does not crash into the wall and snaps the handcuffs on him while he's at it. Oof, sorry about that. Put too much power into that, Kurama says and sounds rather pleased with himself. Naruto rolls his eyes. No duh. Shu looks at him uncertainly. Naruto puts Shishi down onto the ground and grins at her. Surrender. Naruto had set a new record with his entrance exam grades. Mirio had known he was probably leaps and bounds ahead of him. However, he had not expected such a one-sided showing. Naruto had been the last to go and everyone is whispering when he returns to the room. Mirio has a feeling that even if he had been the first, everyone would be too distracted by his performance to even be nervous for their own. His friend bounds over towards him, a smile on his face. That's it for today, right? Mirio nods and smiles back. Yeah, he says. We're eating dinner at the station. Naruto nods and nudges him excitedly towards the door. Mirio holds his ground because their teacher is still talking and has not yet dismissed them. He praises Naruto, but his fellow blonde appears too cheery to notice at all. "Your run was amazing," Mirio says honestly. Naruto blinks, then nervously rubs the back of his head. "Ah, thanks. I hope I didn't hurt anyone. Sometimes my quirk acts on its own." Naruto's quirk fox is sentient. Mirio wonders what that is like. "It was so clean," he says. "And simple." "We don't always have to fight," Naruto replies. "There's no point in fighting if you know you can't win, is there? I think Shu made the right decision. Usually, though, you wouldn't be up against someone who can clone themselves and do 3 different things at once." What an amazing quirk, Mirio thinks, one that surely suits a hero. Was there anything his fellow blonde friend could not do? Naruto grins, so genuine and bright, and Mirio feels his drop of unfair bitterness instantly melt away. "I just know how to use my quirk," he says, and there is weight behind the words that Mirio cannot comprehend just yet. Itsuki returns home one day to see his brother and parents sitting around the dinner table, a letter with a UA seal between them. The UA sports day is coming up, his mother tells him when he joins them. Naruto is apparently giving the first year's speech. "Did you know that he's class representative?" Naruto huffs. "How would he know?" he asks, "when I didn't know until today." Itsuki rolls his eyes, honestly not surprised at this point. "You did set the entrance exam record though." Naruto makes a face. "No one's told me what I'm supposed to do." Itsuki and their parents ignore the sullen blonde as they compare schedules, concluding that all 3 of them are free to go. The event had probably been planned so that as many people could attend. "Can I bring Izuku?" he asks. Itsuki glances over at her husband before she shrugs. "I don't see why not," she says. "Make sure you get Inko's permission, okay?" Itsuki nods. He lightly whacks his brother upside the head and grins when Naruto lets out an exaggerated groan of pain. "You better win, Aniki," he says. Naruto makes a face, probably at the mention of effort, but Kitsuki spins on his heel and dashes up the stairs before his brother can complain. He slams the door to his room and throws himself onto his bed before grabbing his phone and quickly scrolling through his contact list. Izuku picks up on the 3rd ring and Kitsuki speaks over the boy before he can even utter a shy greeting. "Aniki's going to be smashing his classmates during the UA sports day," he says. "Wanna come?" Itsuki promises to take him out to a nice ramen dinner if he wins, and while Naruto had initially been uninterested in beating up a bunch of children in an unfair fight, that certainly catches his attention. The seats of the stadium are full when the students arrive, and Naruto sees a stage with a microphone set up and recalls that he had to say some things. Naruto leans towards Mirio and tries to look as casual as possible. "Sue, what do I say?" Mirio blinks. "Just recite the script and you'll be fine," he says reassuringly. He blinks again. "Wait, you did read. Now we will have the first year representative speech." Naruto shrugs helplessly, then clambers onto the stage. Raidi stands in front of the microphone and clears his throat, then says the first thing that had come to mind when he'd been told to deliver a speech. "Once, I was told by an asshole to remember a password, and then it turned out to be a pass speech, and of course I'd expected a password, so I couldn't remember the speech." "Lies." "Shut it, Kurama. Now, I feel bad cause I was told it'd be a speech, but I've forgotten it anyways." "Lies. You cannot forget something you've never known." "Shush." Everyone is staring at him. His classmates are gaping and his teachers are glaring, and it all feels like another day in the life of Naruto. "Anyways, my amazing lil bro promised to take me to an all-you-can-eat ramen buffet if I beat up everyone and win this thing, so that's what I'm gonna do to Bayo. Good luck everyone." Naruto is soon ushered off the stage while the teachers try to get everything back under control. The first event is introduced on the many screens around the place, a door leading to the exam site opens up and the students are directed towards it. Naruto can hear the announcer through the speakers as he follows the crowd. "While the students move to the event site, I will explain the rules. The first event will take place in the Metropolis setting. Every student will be given a tag colored either red or blue and will start on one side of the map with fellow students who also have the same colored tag. You will be required to have your tag tied around your head and not doing so will result in disqualification. The aim of this event is to seek out a fellow student with the opposite color tag, and you will be required to have both colored tags before you are allowed to enter the goal, which is the large tower located in the middle. Be careful, however, because a tag that is damaged will not count." That sounds disturbingly familiar. Naruto rubs at the back of his head and shakes off the lingering thought. Instead, he decides to focus on a worrying part of this test. "How do you think I should take a tag from someone without damaging it?" he asks. "If they specifically mentioned it as a rule, I doubt they're very durable." "We don't do no damage, kid." "I know, which is why I'm worried." "You're 10 years older than your opponents," Kurama says mockingly. Use your 10 years older brain for once. You'll be assigned left or right up ahead, a teacher explains. Left is red, right is blue. Just tie your tag around your forehead and head towards the gate at the very front. As a reminder, the rules are as follows. Have both tags to be granted entry into the goal and make sure your tag is undamaged. Use of quirks are allowed, of course, and as long as you follow the 2 rules just mentioned you will be fine. He promised Katsuki he would be first. Naruto hums in thought. Mirio wishes Tamaki good luck before he heads left. He spies Naruto ahead of him and makes his way over. Are you ready? His fellow blonde spins around and grins. As ready as can be, Tebeo. Mirio grins right back. For the ramen. He teases. For the ramen. They take a red tag each and tie it around their foreheads before heading to the gates. Tamaki parts ways with Mirio and heads right. Someone taps on his shoulder and Naruto peers at him. Hi. How are you feeling? Tamaki smiles. Hi. He swallows. Nervous, he admits. How about you? I'm feeling great. Tamaki can't help but laugh at that. That's good. Naruto pats him lightly on the back. You'll be fine Tebeo, he says, and Tamaki nods stiffly. He takes a blue tag when it is his turn and ties it around his forehead. Beside him, Naruto does the same. Izuku taps Katsuki when he spots Naruto on one of the screens. Kakin, I see Naruto Nai. There. Katsuki yells at the same time and points at another screen. Izuku blinks. He's there too. Katsuki hears him despite his quiet voice and he turns to look. What? Sure enough, Naruto is yawning at the red side gate while he is also stretching by the blue side gate. What? Katsuki mutters. Naruto Nai can clone himself, remember? Izuku says thoughtfully. Better question might be why. We know why, Katsuki says dismissively. He's an idiot, that's why. I am so smart, Naruto says, to no one in particular. You're cheating, Kurama says. It wasn't mentioned in the rules that you couldn't take a tag from each starting point, Naruto replies. I actually listened and made sure. You're supposed to be training to become a hero. I doubt anyone would even consider such an underhanded tactic, kid. But the louds start coming from the microphones, the students dart out into the city. Naruto activates the Flying Thunder God technique and finds himself at the foot of the tower, where his clone head body flickered towards. He takes the tag around his forehead, dispels said clone, then steps through the goal with, yet again, a record-breaking score. You know, I think I've got this whole school thing in the pouch. Ag, kid. I'm a ninja, he argues. I have a pouch. Accepting bribe as motivation to come first and teach eating just now are both very ninja-like, Kurama finally agrees. Still, you use the Hiraishin no Jutsu for the first time in this world for this. This is an all-you-can-eat ramen buffet at Leafville Hotel, you know. It's worth everything Tebeo. Chapter 9. Sakura has a thing for fixings, and while she would like to think she is rather good at it, healing chakra and all, she knows that her almost obsession goes much further than knitting together flesh and bones. Once, she might have considered herself a romantic, yearning to fix the broken boy that had been Sasuke, but now she thinks it is a way of coping, to put back together just as many as she had taken apart, to save just as many lives as she had allowed to slip through her fingers. So, when Kai calls her early one morning asking her to accompany him to a face-to-face meeting, something he has never done before, she is part suspicious and part worried, and she asks Tamura to lead the dealing they had scheduled from noon. Tamura agrees easily enough, though he is rather sour when she rushes out of the hotel room to where Kai is waiting for her with his car. I'm sure you'll do fine, she says reassuringly. I know, Tamura replies. He sighs. Come back soon, okay? I'll be back before you, she tells him. We can go out for dinner tonight if you want. Sakura has a nasty habit of being late to things she deems not important, and Kai knows it is on purpose because she is exactly 2 hours late. It had taken him a while to get used to, but by now he knows to allocate a time 2 hours earlier to meet. However, when there is something actually important going on, like a meeting with a dealer or meetings within the Shai Haseikai that requires her presence, she arrives exactly on time. This particular time she exits the hotel 2 minutes before meeting time and she knocks on the window of his waiting car at 9 on the dot. If Kai had not been raised alongside Sakura, he has a feeling he would not like her very much. She is skilled and knowledgeable and always seems to know what is going on. Sakura tells him that she only pretends to because that in itself is a weapon to be used in the field of interaction, but Kai also has a feeling that she does know more than she lets on. Now, though, because they had been stuck together for so long, there is something there that compels him to like her, and a part of him is glad because she is a good ally to have in their world. He has plans, after all, and he wants her on his side when it all comes together. The driver opens the door and Sakura slips in. Good morning, she says politely. As if on cue, he yawns. Morning. What's the plan today? The group with foreign influence is attempting to sell weapons in Nagasaki. The port area they are lingering around belongs to us. Sakura shoots him a look from the corner of her eye. Boss has always been willing to compromise, she notes. It's cooperation, not conflict among ourselves, that's allowed us to survive where many others have not. The mention of the boss and refusal to try and accept Kai's ways sends a flash of annoyance through his mind. Sakura seems to notice like she always does and she shuffles around in her seat to get comfortable. And why was I called? She asks instead. You're more than capable, no. Wanted to talk to you about something. And it couldn't be done over the phone. Kai raises an eyebrow. You don't like using the phone. That does not answer the question and Sakura knows it but she does not press. Pleased, Kai turns back to the window and attempts to gather his thoughts. You claim to be a medical op, but how much of the human body do you actually know? Sakura smacks him, offended. I am a medic, she says. I studied medicine and healing. Kai scoffs but does not fight her because he knows she is not lying and he had said that to annoy her. Okay, and how much do you know about human experimentation? Sakura frowns and Kai eyes the way she slowly lowers her hand. Why? Remember that granddaughter I mentioned a while back? He asks. Sakura nods. That girl's quirk can rewind genetics. Her blood can stop someone from using their powers altogether. I want to conduct more tests, but my men are idiots, more or less, and I can't have her dying in the middle. You're conducting experiments on a little girl? Sakura asks, horrified. How old is she? Kai rolls his eyes. Nothing inhumane, he says. Not yet. I'm just running tests with her blood, which is extracted from her with as little pain as possible. Not entirely true, but everything was being done on a scale where the girl didn't die. What's this for? I wants to shake the pinket, tell her to wake up because it is obvious, but he takes a deep breath and calms himself down because he quite likes Sakura, not that he will ever tell her that, and he wants her to be a willing accompaniment to his plans. I want to figure out a way to use her powers to stop the usage of quirks, he explains. If we can control a line of power that decides who can and who can't use their quirks, we can essentially control how this country is run. I don't like human experiments. I had expected this. For someone who happily ran around selling weapons to both authorities and those who tethered more toward the illegal end of society, she had a rather strict moral code when it came to life, though being told she had an oath to heal, only to watch her collapse an entire building on a rival Yakuza family, did not do much to convince him of this oath. I thought you'd say that. Sakura frowns at him. Kai. You should come by and meet her, he tells her. I'm sure she'll like you. Sakura sighs. She's a little girl, she says. Think about it, he says instead. Sakura taps her fingers against the armrest. She closes her eyes and appears to count to 10 in her head. Okay. They sit in silence for a while longer before their car enters an empty car park. A two-floored building stands on the other side. Its windows are tinted, but Kai can see a few men standing by the entrance, waiting for them. We're here. He makes Sakura open the door and step out first so that he can follow without touching the door. It is his car, but why touch things when he does not have to? Sakura rolls her eyes at him but does as he wordlessly asks and even makes a show of holding the door open for him. He notices the sharp look she shoots up in through the window of the building and he notes that someone must be watching. She is showing her deferral to him. As someone who many would still consider young, Kai knows that it will do nothing but help ease his way through negotiations. He keeps his head high as he steps out. After you, your majesty, Sakura murmurs and he steps harshly on her foot as he walks past her. Months pass. Despite Kai's initial insistence, he does not bring up the granddaughter again. Sakura wonders if she is dead before she dismisses that thought because if something had happened, Kai would have dragged her back to fix her. Still, unease settles in her stomach because Kai is distant and the boss had been rather silent for the past half a month. He might not check in on her as much as he used to because she is 15 and had been on this job for 5 years and she simply does not require it, but he still used to chat to her when she sends in her sales reports. The only reason she had not checked in on her own is because Kai, who would give his life for the boss, had not said anything about it either. In front of her, Tomoru glares at the cards in his hands like they had decayed, despite him only having had 4 fingers on them. Confused, annoyed, kind of betrayed. Sakura holds back a laugh. Tomoru is as easy to please as he is to upset, and Sakura knows this is because he expects very little and is always so ready to protect himself by lashing out. He is also eager to please, in a desperate sort of way. Possibly because he is older, maybe because it is simply in his nature, but he is unlike Naruto or Sasuke in all ways possible. Her boys, her teammates, had, at the end of the day, been self-centered. That is not a word often used to describe Naruto, especially, but they had both been too preoccupied with their own crumbling lives. Naruto had been too straightforward, too bright and genuine to be held back, and Sasuke had been ambitious and vengeful and too full of hurt to care. Tamura, however, is different in that he notices the way people treat him. He is delicately built up of the consequences of his choices and the reactions of the people around him. She likes to think that his interactions with her are genuine, and they probably are for the most part, but she also knows that even that it started with an effort to please and the fear of being thrown out. It is obvious in the way he complains like a child when she hands him chores but follows orders without a moment of visible hesitation when she requires him to do so. In a world without her boys, Tamura had taken their place. He is her boy of this world, she thinks. Sakura. The Pincat looks up and notes that Tamura had placed a card down onto the pile. She quickly glances over the cards in her hand and places a red card to match the one on top. Sorry. Tamura shrugs. Take 2, he says and tosses another card on top of hers. Take 4. Take 6. Take 8. Tamura makes a face but snatches 8 cards from the top of a neater pile. You suck. Sakura sticks her tongue out. I'm just her phone rings. Give me a second. Sakura carefully puts her cards onto the floor, face down, before she reaches over towards the coffee table to answer it. Sakura. I know, Kai says tartly. She rolls her eyes and sits up. Good afternoon to you too, she says. What do you want? Where are you? Sakura frowns. Tokyo, she says. It's my week off. I need you to come back right now. What? Head back to HQ as soon as you can. Sakura climbs to her feet and moves to her laptop. Tamura, seeing something in her gaze, abandons his own cards and follows her. Did something happen? She asks. It's boss. That is all Kai offers her before he cuts the call. He is clearly baiting her back. If you want to know more, come back. She had just been thinking about him. Sakura swears under her breath and makes another call. Ai is waiting for her at the entrance to their HQ, and the moment she arrives she is whisked away by him, a firm grip on her wrist to drag her along, towards the medical bay. What happened? Ai does not reply. He simply quickens his steps and she thinks she feels his fingers trembling against her skin. He opens the door to the medical bay and nudges her forward. The room had been cleared of all beds save for one, located in the middle. The boss lies there, unmoving but breathing, attached to several different machines. When did he collapse? She asks, already making her way towards the single bed, and why wasn't I called sooner? If you had the time to set up an entire hospital in HQ, surely you could have called me. She raises her hands, green chakra already flooding to her fingertips, but Kai grabs her by the shoulder, stopping her from getting any closer. What? She asks. Quirks did this to him. Sakura blinks. What do you mean? If Quirks hadn't appeared, the Yakuza would have continued ruling the underworld. Then, Quirks appeared, and with it came the heroes, and they slowly cornered us and reduced us into nothing. Quirks ruined the boss's life. Sakura carefully eyes the hand Kai has on her wrist as the pieces come together in her mind, and as though he had realized she was figuring it out, he teasingly traces a finger up her arm. A threat, she notes. She wonders if he will try and kill her there and then. Still, if he knows then there is no use hiding it. You did this to him, she says slowly. Kai sighs. I was doing it for him, he says. He took me in. He raised me. I will do everything in my power to pay him back. He didn't understand that. Sakura thinks of the man who had taken her in and had given her a role in the organization she had not known she needed until it had been assigned to her. I think he did, she says. But he didn't want it. Same thing. Kai runs a hand through his hair and the hand that had now been ticking her face drops to his side. If he won't accept it, then he will have to watch from the sidelines. And watch anything in this state, she says dryly before she can stop herself. Kai chuckles in amusement. You aren't going to stop me? Sakura wonders what answer he is expecting and what answer he wants. The boss had mentioned his worry for Kai's mental state a few times and she wonders what he is thinking now. If you're showing this to me, you clearly thought I wasn't going to, she says calmly. Do you not think I called you here to get rid of you too? Sakura raises an eyebrow. Do you think you can? Because not once had he beaten her during their training sessions. Of course, there had been no quirks and he had been much younger, but Sakura is confident that he still cannot. His quirk makes him a threat at all ranges, but he can only put together what he himself had taken apart and she is sure she can take things apart much more effectively than him, even if it is a little messier. Her Byakugan seal pulses beneath the genjutsu she hides it behind and her arms tingle at the thought of a fight, but she forces herself to remain still. Why did you call me here? She asks. Clearly it's not to heal him. I want you nearby from now on. What does that mean exactly? Sakura narrows her eyes. You're going to disband us? Not necessarily, Kai replies. For now, we need to strengthen our base. If the boss's state spreads, who knows who will come after us. You're one of our strongest fighters, Sakura, I want you around. Sakura had always pulled herself together to deal with shit. It came with being the add-on girl on a team doomed to part ways, with being a trained killer in a world of trained killers. She had allowed herself to fall apart in this world because the option to do so had been handed to her, and now the shit she had decided to not deal with was piling up on her. A decision she makes here would decide her path in this world for the rest of her life, she thinks, because up until now she had more or less been doing what she had been told and tagged along. Kai wanted to change the world, and he would not hesitate in the face of the lives that would be, lost. Kai would make her a part of the consequence. Before, she would have faced it all with her fists clenched and her teammates by her side. Here, though. Here, she is alone. People care for her, she is sure, but they will not understand the most important parts that made them different, and that thought alone makes her feel so alone. The boss had given her a role. He had given her a place to belong, a task to follow through. She had gone with it, partly because she had nowhere else to go and nothing else to do, and partly because she had still been thinking that the scroll would time out at some point. She had long given up on the thought of ever returning to her past life. It had been years, and hope is usually a dangerous thing to have in a threat-ridden world like the one of the shinobi she had grown up in. Naruto might have been the one unkillable light, but he is not here, is he? As far as she remembers, Haruno Sakura had never run away, not really. Perhaps it is because she had never had anything to run from, perhaps it is because she never had a reason to. Perhaps the thought had never crossed her mind, or perhaps she had never been given the choice. Regardless, she has a feeling she will not forgive herself if she ran away now, especially with the memories of her past life haunting her thoughts. So, she does what she does best and gets her shit together. If she were to agree to Kai's order here, she would no longer be wandering around the country, and while she had enjoyed the freedom, she does not think she will particularly miss the freedom. She is used to the chained down kind of loyalty, after all. Their men will all return to serving under Kai, which she also does not have a problem with. They were always loyal to the organization first and foremost, and that had not changed. Himura is the one expectation, and she will need to have Kai agree to let her keep him. She has a feeling he would not consider it too high a price to pay if she agrees to his terms in exchange. Fine, she says, and Kai nods as though he had expected her answer. She briefly wonders what he would have done had she said no. But, she continues, I have a condition. Care to hear it out? Kai sighs. No promises, he says, but shoot. All the men assigned to me by the previous boss will return to you, she says, but I'll keep the one I found and took under my wing. No, I want to, no can I. She holds firm with this request, demand, because she will not yield where Tamura is concerned. Kai shrugs. Okay, he agrees, easily enough. He is probably smart enough to know that he will gain nothing from taking whoever it is that she wants to keep from her. After all, if she recruited him, it is highly likely, and in this case absolutely true, that they are loyal to her and not the shy Hasekai. Kai looks rather pleased with himself. Now that that's settled, I have a task for you. Sakura makes a face. What? Already? It's my holiday. Your first task assigned to you by the new boss of the shy Hasekai, Kai says, face blank. Good for you. Sakura swats him lightly. What is it? Remember that granddaughter? Sakura nods slowly. Yes. I'm putting you in charge of the infirmary and her. Sakura crosses her arms. What exactly does that mean? The latter, I mean. The former is an obvious decision. Decisions regarding her will be left up to you, Kai tells her. You'll be in charge of her welfare, as well as the extraction of her blood. What she does, where she can go, what she's fed. I expect you to manage all of that so that we are able to continue extracting blood samples for us to test. Everything, right? Kai nods. There are men in the medical bay, but they will be assigned to you. Some of them might not like the idea of working under a little girl. He smirks in amusement. Still, I'm sure you'll whip them into shape in no time. I'll punch them into shape for sure, Sakura agrees. Anything else? You and your subordinate will be given a room in this HQ. Make use of them as you see fit. I'll call when I need you around. Tamura finds himself in Sakura's room as he waits for her return. The TV is on, airing some live stream of UA's sports day, to which he is honestly not paying much attention. He recalls his past of wanting to be a hero and wants to laugh because while he may not be a villain just yet, he is definitely as far as could be from a figure of justice. He hears something about Raymond in what he is sure is supposed to be the representative speech and is about to look up when the door to the room is thrown open. Tamura looks over, ready to complain about Sakura leaving in the middle of their card game, but stops when he sees the look on her face. He quickly turns off the TV and gets to his feet. Whatever is left of his annoyance turns into worry when she staggers past him and makes a beeline towards the bathroom, where she throws water onto her face. What did the executive want? He asks quietly, and he forces himself to sound gentle, because while he is ready to murder Chisaki Kai had he done something, Sakura is not the one he wants to be angry at. He gets a towel and holds it out of her reach until she relents and lets him wipe at her face. He is taller than her now. The thought would have made him smile in any other situation. He wants our lives on a silver platter. Sakura coughs. What do you mean? Sakura glances out towards the door as though to make sure it is closed. Tamura had locked it before following the girl into the bathroom, but he lets her reassure herself. I put the boss in a coma. Tamura frowns. What? He had never met the boss before and he never felt the desire to either. His loyalty lay with Sakura, not the boss. Still, even he knows that there is something wrong with an executive rendering the leader into a comatose state. He has some grand plan to reinstall the Yakuza as the rulers of the underground, which he wants to do for the boss, by the way, and the boss was against it. So, he put him into a coma and is going to go about it anyway. And what does that have to do with us? I wants me around. He says it's in case we're attacked by people who might want to take advantage of the boss's weakened state, but I think he's solidifying his own backing. I'll follow whatever you decide on. Sakura smiles. I'm staying, she says, and she sounds apologetic. Tamura nods. Okay, he replies, and he lets her ruffle his hair, only because he thinks she looks a little shaken. Chapter 10. Sasuke does not care much for the details, but it appears that Deathly Hands, Shimura Tenko as All For One tells him, is either very, very good at hiding, or Shai Hasekai put more effort than he had expected into protecting its members, which would then suggest that the Yakuza took better care of those loyal to it than their villain organization did, or the boy was more important than anyone had thought. Jiren is brought in to gather information, and Tenko apparently has records of his presence all over the country. They are yet to figure out if that is actually the case, or if it is all a part of information manipulation. Did Shai Hasekai know who the boy actually is? Did the boy himself know who he is? If he did and had picked the path of a murderer on purpose, the boy clearly possesses a cynical mind. Regardless, his current location is unknown. Considering how his tracks covered the whole country, it's reasonable to assume he is no longer where Sasuke found him. I found him in an abandoned park, Sasuke says. I doubt he'd still be there. Everyone ignores him. Also, it appears there has been a shift in leadership within the Shai Hasekai. At this, Sasuke looks up. He is not the most interested, but it is good to know the inside situation of an organization that may begin to stand in their way, influence-wise, once All For One decides to actually bring the League of Villains out into the light. A part of Sasuke hopes that the man falls over and dies before he has to claim to be a member of a group with such a ridiculous name. If it comes down to it, he may have to commit the murder himself. The man has not gotten in his way yet, not really, but he refuses to go down in history as Sasuke of the League of Villains. Even the name Akatsuki had better class, even if it was only because they did not have the fact that they were evil and villainous plastered into their name. The new leader is a young executive who is known in the underground as Overhaul. Unlike the previous boss who had been gradually stepping away from it, Overhaul appears to be re-entering the world of crime, and it is possible that their path may cross with ours at a later date. Currently, he is busy reinforcing his base, and it looks as though he may launch a full-on takeover on the little remaining influential Yakuza families. Jiren gives a full verbal report, as opposed to the dumping of files he does with Sasuke, possibly because All For One is present as well. Sasuke personally prefers the latter method because he had been looking forward to watching the UA Sports Day on TV. He ends up tuning in late on the opening event because All For One likes to sit and pretend to think over every little thing he hears when Sasuke knows the man had recordings of everything, and by the time he starts watching it, the first student had already completed the task. He has no way of knowing what the event had exactly been, and he is not interested enough to care. He watches the second, then the third, student reach the goal point, each with 2 colored tags wrapped around their forehead, and decides that this is boring. He had watched a sports day a few times over the years, but the opening event was always rather boring, because while it aimed to eliminate some of the competition, it also required to have others pass. Perhaps the individual matches would be more interesting. It had always been, if only because he could observe each competitor. He was yet to come across a quirk he found impressive, considering how wide his personal arsenal was, but everyone's powers were unique, and that was rather interesting. He does not get there, though, because All For One summons him for a training session for the first time in a while. The man had been spending really all his time recuperating, but he had recently begun frequenting their hideout again, and Sasuke correctly pins the reason down on Shimura Nana's grandson. He still has no idea who Nana is, but he hopes she steps on a Lego for all the times he had woken up to see All For One's face first thing in the morning. If he were lucky, he could go days without seeing anyone's face because Kurogiri was missed and he did not count and he had been enjoying his time of isolation and gaming. Stepping on a little block of Lego was a kind of pain different compared to what he was used to from his past life, and the annoying kind of torture Nana's grandson's reemergence brought upon him deserved a similarly annoying kind of pain as retribution. At the root of it all, it could be said that he himself was the problem, because he had been the one to subconsciously use Tenko as an excuse as to why he was late to a meeting, but he had long learned to not bother with the details. Not too long after Sasuke appeared before him and Shimura Tenko had fallen off the grid, All For One had stopped attempting to track the boy. It had been a pity, especially back then, but Sasuke had long since turned out to be more than worth the loss. The boy's quirk is still an undetermined mess, with fire and lightning under his command. He had seen the boy climbing a wall by walking straight up, and he had also once watched him make several people stop moving by meeting their gaze. Sasuke does not explain his powers, ever, and All For One is now sure that it is out of unwillingness rather than an inability to understand it himself. It is certainly complex, but the boy has been wielding it masterfully for as long as he had known him. Still, he more or less appears to have no plans, no ambitions, and simply follows orders when he is given them, albeit reluctantly and accompanied by hours of whining and complaints. Despite his overall lack of commitment, he does not have anywhere else to be. He is here, by his side, because he has nothing else to do, and that might have worried All For One had he not seen the ease at which the boy killed. Sasuke may not be committed at all to the cause or his teachings, but he was more than willing to murder in its name. He wonders if it has something to do with his upbringing prior to being found by him, or if the boy had always been a few screws loose. Regardless, perhaps it is fortunate that Shimura Tenko had vanished, then re-emerged, long after he had taken Sasuke under his wing. If they had both been there, he would have surely taken the grandson of Shimura Nana without hesitation, but now that he had long become aware of Sasuke's own value, he could afford to keep Sasuke around without both eyes on him and work on bringing Shimura Tenko into his field of influence. It had been a while since the death of the boy's family, but he is sure the despair that must have caused had long taken root in the boy. That is not a loss children manage to get over, especially on their own. If the boy is a yakuza because despair had driven him to hate society, he would give him an even better outlet. If he is an unwilling captive of people who had taken advantage of his young age and abilities, he would rescue him from their clutches. Either way, he would be his. It may be a little more difficult considering how he is no longer a child, but he is sure the boy can be convinced. After all, a young teenager with nothing left in the world would probably jump at the offer of being given everything. As though the fates had timed it, Tenko vanishes off the grid of the face of the earth. While there had been trackable signs of him moving around the country, it is suddenly as though his movements had stopped as abruptly as the change in leadership of the Shiha Seikai. I can only assume Overhaul gave orders different from the previous boss, Jiren says, and Sasuke is pretty sure it is merely that. After all, the boy is as diligent as ever for their game meetups, and as far as Sasuke can tell via voice comms, there is nothing wrong. I have been attempting to track bank records and communication between Shiha Seikai and affiliated organizations. Several of the inner factions have been disbanded, and there is a significant decrease to all incoming and outgoing financial flows. Tightening the base, Sasuke says thoughtfully, and Jiren nods. There was also a case that backs up our suspicion that Overhaul is attempting to take in smaller groups to his side. 2 days ago, a small group in Chiba that appears to have previously been involved in weaponry dealings with the Shiha Seikai was taken down. According to police reports, by the time anyone arrived the entire building that acted as their hideout was completely demolished, anyone within it slaughtered, and members suspected to not have been in the area at the time were hunted down. 2 were found dead in Tokyo, 3 in Aichi. Another 4 bodies suspected to be related to this were found in other prefectures as well. Sasuke listens intently, a little surprised at the brutality of the Yakuza. Or, maybe it was merely Shiha Seikai. The majority of the villains Sasuke had met had been hilarious at best and simply saddening at worst. Many were petty, their quirks not impressive and their skills a joke, and it is a little refreshing and a tiny bit worrying that there is a group of people who appeared to take savagery to a level he was a little more familiar with from his previous life. Citing reports. All For One asks. Nothing as of yet. Security cameras were turned off or destroyed long before the assault and they'd been wiped clean afterwards. Sasuke recalls Tenko telling him of something similar back in the park about camera footage. Shiha Seikai was through and savage, and a part of him felt something like that did not really belong in this world that had become his life. 3 weeks later, Jiren brings him photographic proof of Shimura Tenko's location. All For One is pleased with the news, and despite the years that have passed, he instantly recognizes the boy adorning a hood in the middle of the photo. Still Jiren, All For One says. The man wrings his hands nervously, even if none of that shows on his face. Yes. Shimura Tenko is a member of the Shiha Seikai, yes. That is correct. All For One gestures at the photo on the table. Then why is he happily on a date at what is it with amusement park names these days? Was he even saying it right? Fuji-Q Highland. Their base becomes hectic for the first time in a while, and Sasuke is often ordered to accompany All For One on his visits to Garaki Kaidai, where at one point he has the misfortune of coming face to face with a most hideous creature that appeared to be 90% muscle and 10% brain. Brain which he could see sitting on top of its stupid-looking head. Sasuke has never been one to judge things based on appearance. He sought perfection. Useful was acceptable, but in order to accomplish the goals he had set himself in his previous life, he had to be the best. That is not the case in this world, however, and he has allowed himself to become a little pickier with the options given to him, and this thing was a big no. In fact, he has a feeling that if accepting Orochimaru's power had turned him into something as hideous as this, he might have abandoned his quest for revenge altogether. All For One and his mad doctor are proud of this creation, whatever it is supposed to be. The only good part of it all is that he is asked to fight the thing, because the older men want to test out their creation. Sasuke is more than happy to show them how undurable it is. This model, in particular, was created to counter your abilities, Kaidai tells him in lieu of a warning. Electricity-proof and fireproof. When his first shock of lightning is bounced off as the doctor had told him, he summons chakra to his hand. He hears the familiar chirping of 1,000 birds and stabs a hole through the ugly thing with his Chidori. He does not even bother with his usual Kaiten techniques and instead goes straight for the kill in a flurry of black Amaterasu flames. The thing collapses and does not get up. Sasuke thinks his satisfaction is akin to a neat freak finishing up the cleaning of a house. He claps his hands together, turns to All For One and Kaidai, and raises an eyebrow. The doctor mourns over his creation, but the way neither of them appear too shocked or upset makes Sasuke suspect that they had expected this outcome. They continue on with their discussions as Garaki takes notes and he pieces together that the thing, Nomu, was something they were working on to take on All Might. Sasuke pities the hero for having to face something so hideous on the whim of the supposed greatest villain of all time. The two adults appear to have all but forgotten he is even there. He shrugs, turns, and leaves. The next time Sasuke sees All For One is 2 weeks after. He is just about to boot up his game console when the man appears at the mouth of what he considered the living room of their base. It was one of the biggest rooms and has the best couch he had ever come across, which he likes to sit in when he plays games. He notes that the man is fully decked out in his villain gear and puts 2 and 2 together. "You're going after the boy?" Sasuke asks, just to make sure. No matter his affiliations, or the creepy men after him, or the thorn in his side grandmother Shimura, Tenko was a good gaming buddy. He was on time for their gaming times, built correctly for his role, and was good at the games they played, all unlike a certain RAMENLOVER7 who picked gear according to appearances and refused to cook any party buffs but the ramen dishes. It would suck to lose his new party mate so fast. All For One nods. "I received intel that he is currently in Okayama. Would you like to accompany us?" What was it with adults around him and their need to go after young boys? Sasuke is careful to keep his expression blank. "No," he says dismissively, "the newest expansion of Biju Hunter Rise is out." "Perhaps I should give you another task," All For One says calmly, "seeing as you've completely abandoned the Amori gang case. It will not do for you to become lax." Still, he does not sound as annoyed as he might have been in any other situation. The grandson case really was preoccupying him. Sasuke simply shrugs. He knows people like him were referred to as neats, but he is a full-time villain, which he is sure counts as a job, so technically he did not fall under the label. As he had proven many times over, he is very good with denial. All For One leaves soon after through the warp gate Kurogiri creates for him, not at all deterred. Sasuke waits until he is sure the man is gone before he lets out a loud groan, no longer in the mood to play games. He is sure no one liked creepy villainous men accosting them. In his past life, Sasuke had kind of gone asking for it. Still, as far as he had seen, Tenko appeared perfectly content with his life, and considering his backstory given to him by All For One, the thought of Tenko losing everything he looked to have gained at the hands of a selfish adult left a bitter taste in his mouth. When All For One returns a week later without the boy, Socks is surprised and very relieved. He knows the man is skilled enough at what he does, and Kurogiri had reported him leaving with a Nomu, so he had honestly been expecting the worst. Had this grandson put up a fight? His surprise must have shown because All For One gestures him over. The boy travels with a girl, he tells him, and he does not sound as annoyed as Sasuke had thought he would be. "I suspect she has a quirk like All Might." Sasuke perks at this. "One for all?" All For One nods. "Super strength, from what I could tell." He looks him over, as though comparing. "She looks to be around your age," he tells him. "They will certainly be on their guard now. Perhaps next time you would like to come with me?" If All Might's secret #1 fan was comparing this girl to the hero, clearly she was something. Was this the action he had been waiting for? Sasuke nods without a moment of hesitation. What if Team 7 was in My Hero Academia? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.